Hello and welcome to the EcoCast. Today's topic, supercharging education and government IT and cloud environments. My name is David Davis of Actual Tech Media, and I'll be serving as the moderator. Thanks so much for joining us on this special EcoCast event. We've got a great show lined up for you today. Before we get started, there's just a few things that you should know about the event. If you haven't been on an EcoCast or MegaCast event before by Actual Tech Media, you should know that we at Actual Tech Media, we're all former IT professionals, and we created the EcoCast and MegaCast event series to help educate IT professionals such as yourselves about the latest and greatest in enterprise technology to help you do it quickly and efficiently from the comfort of your home or office, to help get all your questions answered, and maybe most importantly, to help you to solve your technology challenges. We know how tough it can be out there in the world of enterprise IT, and this event is designed here to help you. So we've got presentations from experts across many different innovative companies. We've got the latest and greatest technology solutions being presented here today. We've got live Q&A where we will be taking your questions live, and we have some really cool demos lined up for you as well. And, did I mention, we've also got some prizes, which I'll be talking about here in just a moment. Now, just a few things that you should know here when it comes to the console. The questions pane is right there next to the word handouts in the audience console. If you click on that, that's where we encourage you to ask your questions. In fact, we have our best question prize as well to help encourage those questions. I'll talk about that in just a moment. Many of you have already discovered the questions pane. I see all the good morning, good afternoon, hello messages from across the United States and around the world. We appreciate those, but we also want your technical questions. So as you're watching today's expert presenters talk about their solutions, if something pops into your head, hey, does it do this? Does it do that? How would it work with this application or this piece of hardware? Ask those questions, and we'll be doing our best to answer every single one of them. We also have some poll questions for you, so I'll be bringing up polls periodically during the event, and we want your feedback on those polls, and we appreciate that. In advance, our presenters want to hear your feedback about their presentations, and we also want to learn about, what's going on in your IT organization. We want this to be a social event as well. You can tweet directly from the console using the Twitter icon on the bottom of the screen. And the hashtag for the EcoCast will be automatically appended when you tweet. You never have to, go over to your Twitter app or whatever it might be to tweet. Just tweet directly from the console, and you can keep watching. I'll be monitoring Twitter throughout the event for anyone tweeting with that hashtag, and we appreciate you socializing, what you learn on the EcoCast. We also have a number of social icons on the top right-hand side of your audience console, one for YouTube, Twitter, and our LinkedIn page. Those are all Actual Tech Media resources we encourage you to check out. And speaking of resources, there in the Handouts tab, you'll find a hand-selected resource, one from each of our six expert presenters from Progress, Falcon Store, Rubrik, Pure Storage, CrowdStrike, and Sophos. There are special links. There are solution briefs, ebooks. So make sure that you check out those handouts in the Handouts tab as well. And I mentioned some prizes. We do have 3 Amazon $500 gift cards. We'll be giving those out live on the EcoCast today. You must be live in attendance to qualify. I will be announcing the winner periodically, throughout the event here. We'll kind of space them out in between the 6 different presentations. And there are some prize terms and conditions that you must meet to be eligible for the prize drawings. The most important one is you need to be live in attendance to qualify, because we do those drawings throughout the event. In addition to the 3 Amazon $500 gift cards, we also have 6 Amazon $50 gift cards. These will be based on those who ask the best question, and also those, you still must qualify based on the Actual Tech Media prize policy. So, to enter this drawing, not only do you need to meet the prize policy, but also you have to ask a question, and don't just throw out any question, but ask some good questions. We encourage your questions, and our presenters are looking forward to your questions as well. So keep those questions coming. So 3 Amazon $500 gift cards, 6 Amazon $50 gift cards. I'm not going to do the math, but a lot of good prizes on the event today, a lot of high prize value. And when it comes to being eligible for the prize drawings, not only must you be live on the event, but you also must meet the prize terms and conditions, which you can find there in the handouts tab. Now, all prize winners have the option to make a donation for their prize value to the selected charities that you see here on the screen. Over the years, thanks to generous prize winners, we've donated thousands of dollars to the charities on the screen. So if you win a prize and you'd like to make a donation to charity, we would love to help you do that. We've also done this in partnership with the Gorilla Guide Book Club. You can go to gorilla.guide. In fact, you can just click on it on the screen there or access the link in the handouts tab. And it's there that you'll find, 75, maybe 100 different ebooks that you can download completely for free. These are full-length educational books that you can download. You can read them on your Kindle or mobile device or on your computer, and they cover some of the latest and greatest enterprise technology out there today, new features, new innovation. So make sure that you check out gorilla.guide for more information. When it comes to social, we said we want this to be a social event. The hashtag for today is ATM EcoCast. And like I said, if you tweet from the bottom of your console using that Twitter icon, the hashtag will be automatically appended at the end of your tweet. The first time that you use that, you just have to do the normal Twitter authorization. We're not keeping your Twitter username or password. It's just between you and Twitter whether or not you're authorized to tweet from this application. You can also follow Actual Tech Media over on Twitter, and me as well, your moderator, David M. Davis. We also have other social resources you can subscribe to. We have our 10 on Tech podcast, Facebook, and we publish all of our events over on our LinkedIn or on our YouTube page. So make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube homepage. You can do that in the top right-hand side there of your audience console. And then we post all of our latest and greatest content over on LinkedIn. So make sure that you check us out there as well. Now, before I introduce you to our first presenter, I just want to set the stage a little bit for today's topic. When it comes to supercharging education and government IT and cloud environments, there are a few things that you need to know. Many of you may be dealing with aging data centers. I know in the public sector, this is unfortunately all too common. Maybe your data center isn't quite that old, but you have aging infrastructures, and that's a challenge that we all have to deal with. We have to justify budgets to update these infrastructures to keep them current, and to ensure that they're going to provide the applications and the performance that our company or our organization needs. And so the goal really is, how can we take an aging IT infrastructure, similar to that one, and really supercharge it with, new applications, software-defined services, high-performance storage, cloud applications, cloud services. And, maybe it's a supercharger like that, or actually, I like this one better. Maybe it's a supercharger like this. And, while we're supercharging, to go off on a little tangent here, why not supercharge with a jet engine, or I even like this one better, maybe a rocket engine, the Saturn V rocket engine or the Falcon Heavy rocket engine. We have a lot of challenges when it comes to our public sector IT organizations. 2020 was a chaotic year, of course, for everyone. And 2021 is, we're halfway through it now, and it's still relatively chaotic, I would say. But it's been especially chaotic for state, local government, and educational IT organizations. And some of the challenges, include 100% work from home or study from home for students and teachers or public, sector workers. But at the same time, public sector organizations are prime targets for malicious attacks. I'm talking about, ransomware and data theft, and it's just been rampant. Public sector has been targeted, I'm sad to say. We're also facing rapid changes and priorities in our budgets. And at many organizations, we're doing sudden cloud migrations, and we have massively growing data sets to deal with at the same time, not only to store and provide high-performance access to that data, but also to protect it in the event that it is infected with some sort of ransomware, and we need to get that data off-site at the same time in case we experience some sort of disaster. So those are the challenges. And to supercharge our public sector IT organization, what we really need are, of course, some new innovative data protection and DR solutions. Many of us have aging, legacy data protection applications that just aren't going to be able to perform a rapid recovery in the event of a ransomware attack. We also need state-of-the-art security to protect us from these types of attacks, to begin with. We need intelligent data management to ensure that our data is rapidly available and efficiently organized. And we also need, just across the board, efficiency, scalability, and greater agility all around. We're continually forced to do more with less, as the kind of sad saying goes. And we in IT, we need to be kind of the superheroes, if you will, of the organization, and really use this innovative technology that's at our fingertips to make everyone in our company or our organization more efficient, more scalable, and provide our organization greater agility through technology. And that's why I'm really excited about the 6 different presentations from our 6 different experts that you'll be learning from on today's EcoCast: Pure Storage, Falcon Store, Rubrik, Progress, CrowdStrike, and Sophos. And now, before I introduce you to our first presenter, I've got a poll question for you out there in the audience. The question on the screen, I just brought it up, is what's your time frame for adding new or updating existing IT solutions at your company? Is this something that you plan to do immediately, within the next 6 months, 6 to 12 months, 12 to 24 months, or maybe you're not quite sure? You do answer the question right there in the slides window. Just click on the option that corresponds to your IT organization, and I'll leave this up for a few moments and give everyone a chance to respond. All right, thank you to everyone who responded there to the poll. It looks like more than half of you are planning to make updates or add planning to update your IT solutions or add new IT solutions in the next 12 months. So thank you so much for your feedback on that. It's now time to kick off our expert presentation on the EcoCast. First presenter of the day, I'm excited to welcome Mr. Mark Towler, Senior Product Marketing Manager at Progress. Mark, are you there?
I am indeed. Thanks very much for having me today.
Great to have you on, Mark. Take it away.
So I'm here from Progress, and I just want to give you guys a bit of an overview on some of the things we've learned from our customers who are in the education and government agencies about some of the challenges they're facing. As mentioned, I'm a senior product expert here with Progress, and what I want to do today is take a look at some of the challenges that are facing educational institutions and government agencies, some of the best practices that we've actually been able to determine and by watching what makes them successful, how our product, What's Up Gold, can help, and then we'll take some questions. So right off the bat, I'm going to bore you with a really quick plug, and I'm not just pushing this so that you guys all know, like, oh, this is, buy our product, buy our product. I kind of do want you to buy our product. But what I want to do is put this into context so you understand kind of where we're coming from. One of the solutions Progress provides is a network availability and performance at-a-glance monitoring solution called What's Up Gold. It's been around for a while, but what it really does is it allows users to avoid downtime because they can monitor their network, they can get alerts on everything that's going on in their network, they can see exactly what's happening, and it allows them, and this is the big piece that our customers love, allows them to resolve network issues before their end users notice. And that's kind of like the holy grail for IT administrators. And again, I'm actually quoting a customer on that. It's comprehensive, it eliminates finger pointing, and we're particularly strong in both the education and government regions for a number of different reasons. But the reason I want to highlight that is because these are the people that we work with most often. Our product is not nearly close to being the most expensive thing out there. It's something that's very suitable for medium business, medium organizations, right up to enterprises. It's got a lot of scaling capabilities, and it's very easy to use. And the value of that is we get people from a variety of different technical levels of skill who are using it to monitor networks that range from anything from one single high school to multiple universities and university networks to not, I won't say DARPA is one of our customers, but similar sized government organizations. So it's very interesting, the range of issues that we see and the range of challenges that they're running into. But we do notice a few things that are consistent across the board. And as mentioned, you've got to bear in mind, in this framework, these are people who are dealing with extremely tight budgets and extremely limited access to updated and modern systems, and yet at the same time are under tremendous pressure to resolve issues and be secure and provide the services. The things that we see our customers complaining about are, or at least the issues our customers are dealing with are standard stuff. Network's slow, and they can't figure out why. They've got VMs all over the place, and they're not sure either where they are, where they're hosted, whether they've been shut down once they should be, or whether they're still running and costing them money. Everyone complains about the internet being slow when they're trying to stream, and when there's video or other media coming through and it's getting choppy, it's not working, it's low resolution, it's always the network's fault. And how do you figure that one out? Which leads to the next question. Where's all my bandwidth going? That's a huge one right now. Any IT administrator will tell you right off the bat, that's one of their biggest questions. Who's using up all the bandwidth? Where is it going? And to find that out, they're using a variety of different tools, which is in itself a problem. They have to hop from system to system, from console to console, looking at different views of the network, and they're not seeing everything in one in-context view that lets them see exactly how everything interacts and interrelates. And then the issue, of course, is they're constantly under budget pressure. So, what resources aren't being used or being underused? Do we have 5 different Azure servers that are running right now, and we really only need 1? Can we decommission some of those? What old stuff can we get rid of that's just, creating a massive drag? And then, of course, and this is somewhat unique to, I wouldn't say completely unique, but somewhat unique to the education and government sectors, is that they're under significant regulations for a variety of reasons and a variety of different regulations. Some can even be internal, just local education policies, but they must comply with regulations, and they're probably being required to prove that they're in compliance with those regulations on a regular basis. And that in itself is a challenge. Leaving aside the whole issue of what happens if they do actually get hacked, or if they leave a security hole, or there's data breach, or any of the rest of it, on top of that, they need to be able to prove regularly that, hey, we can do this, we have met those regulations, which is important because that's going to prevent those hacks. So, best practices. Let's take a look at some of the things that we're finding our customers are doing. And number one is know what your infrastructure is doing. As mentioned, some of the stuff is aging. Very few of the people who are involved in either academia or government were around when that network was first built. There's a lot of pieces, there's a lot of equipment, a lot of it's old, a lot of it's ancient, a lot of it's been kludged together, and if you don't know what that is, you're going to have real trouble making sure it's working and making sure it's up and running. If you can't see it, you can't manage it, period. If you don't know, you're never going to be able to fix the problem. And this isn't just a matter of like, okay, I'm new on the job, what's going on with this network? Things change all the time. You've got changes that are planned, you've got changes that are unplanned. Let's not even talk about shadow IT when your users decide it's too much trouble to open a ticket and just plug in a router or add another printer that you're unaware of, and oh, security issues? No, what's that? That's the sort of issue that drives people nuts. You need to know what's running what's connected, how everything is interdependent, and where things are physically. Because if you don't know, you're just setting yourself up for failure. So the number one best practice is run a layer 2, 3 discovery and create a network map so you know what you're looking at. And this is not a one-time thing. Discoveries are snapshots. They will show you what's going on right now. You need to run them regularly because, as we said, things change regularly. Then, once you've got a map, and I'm talking a vendor agnostic, everything in context map, and it doesn't necessarily have to be an actual physical map. A chart is fine, a matrix. Just even knowing what's out there and its status is huge, which actually leads me to the second point, which is, okay, now that you've found everything, what's the next best practice? Well, you need to monitor that infrastructure, and that means keeping an eye on how it's doing. You're looking at availability. You're looking at performance. You need to see whether or not data is going through smoothly. Are there any hangups? Did switches go down? Did routers go down? Is something slowing down? Hey, can we look at actual bandwidth and see where the majority of it is going? This covers both your wired and your wireless infrastructure and your virtual and cloud infrastructures. Anything that can be moving data is something that could be impacting your end user's experience. And if you can figure out what's going on, you can usually head off issues before they start impacting those end users. And that is huge. And that's why it has to be vendor agnostic. If you're just looking at, the Cisco operating tools, they're not going to necessarily give you a level of insight into the Dell, storage devices or the Meraki wireless access point system. You want something that can look at all of it and put it together, because otherwise you end up with finger pointing. It's not a problem with us, it's got to be a problem with this other system. You can see something in context, it's a lot easier to go, all right, that's the problem. This thing's not working. Oh, that's system's down. That wireless access point has 50 people trying to connect to it. We need to relieve some of the traffic or kick a bunch off. Things like that make a huge difference between not knowing how to resolve an issue and being able to stop the problem before it starts impacting your customers or your end users. And one thing I want to stress is it's really important to use a single tool instead of a handful. There are sometimes a bunch of different tools that are maybe excellent at their jobs, but they don't necessarily talk to each other. What you want is something that can do a lot of things really well and give you that overall in context view. We do know for a fact that the more tools any system administrator or network administrator has at their disposal, or that they are required to use for their job, the worse their mean time to repair comes down. We've got statistics and data backing that up. Everyone's trying to simplify it and keep things simpler. One system that will monitor and manage and let you track everything is going to be a big, big game changer for you. So moving on to our next best practice is, all right, we're monitoring that traffic. Where's that bandwidth going? That's, again, the kind of the number one issue, and that is the underlying issue behind a lot of the problems we talked about. Your media isn't streaming, that's a problem with bandwidth. We've got a certain amount of capacity, but suddenly it's not available, or why is everything slow for everyone? Who's using your bandwidth? And more importantly, why are they using their bandwidth? And education is unique in that there is often a very, very good use for video and bandwidth. It's easy to say in a government setting. It's like, okay, no one gets to browse YouTube, no one gets to download stuff from stream from Netflix and things like that. There are cases where that can be relevant in education, and that's something you need to plan for and need to monitor. But at the same time, is that someone showing an educational film or a documentary in a classroom, or someone watching the latest Marvel movie on their laptop while they have lunch? That's the sort of thing you need to be aware of. That's the sort of thing you need to track. You don't want to be in the situation like the guy on the right where it's like, hey, no one can use the bandwidth of a shut off access to the internet. You need to make sure that's being allocated and understand how people are using it. The other piece of this too is you want to get alerted. This isn't just a passive experience where you're just sitting here and watching things. You can set threshold alerts where you want to know, okay, if this connection hits 80% capacity, I want to get an alert, or maybe 90%, or that's really important, maybe 75%. You want to be able to set a threshold to know how much bandwidth is being used and when that bandwidth starts to get out of control, so you can see what's going on and maybe make a phone call to the guy who's watching that Marvel movie on his lunch break and tell him, get off of it, we need the bandwidth. Similarly, and I want to stress network monitoring solutions are not security tools, but they are the sort of thing that will allow you to quickly detect when things are going wrong. And denial of service attacks are common. And if you're seeing bandwidth spiking, if you're seeing bandwidth usage coming out of areas that are not at all normal, this can give you an early warning about possible intrusions. One thing we see a lot with our government customers as well is there tends to be a lot of hacking and intrusion attempts through IoT devices or things like Ethernet-capable video cameras. There's a certain steady amount of bandwidth you're going to expect to get from a camera pointing at a hallway. If that suddenly shoots way up, it's either something's very exciting going on in that hallway or someone's trying to break in through there. So these are the sort of things, again, you can set alerts on so you can get another idea. It's another layer of protection. And moving on, take yourself out of the equation. So many, in fact, the majority of network outages and performance issues happen because something wasn't configured properly. And sometimes that's human error. Sometimes it's just it was never set up properly in the first place. Sometimes, the systems aren't talking to each other and haven't figured it out yet. But either way, at some point, you want to automate a lot of this because if you're human, you're going to make errors. It happens to all of us. And the more things you have to do manually, the more things you're going to find are getting errored out or causing problems. When it comes to configurations, that's huge because this not only applies to keeping the entire network working smoothly, which obviously is the primary goal, but also there's often a lot of regulations that impact how systems are configured. Maybe you want port 8080 blocked on every single device. That's a configuration, and you can either go through every single one of your devices and do that manually, or you can do something like assign a device role and a configuration. This can happen during discovery. You can say, hey, every router, block port 8080 or whatever, and that configuration gets automatically applied. Now, again, intrusion issues, someone can come in and often the first thing they do if they gain access to something is change a local configuration to make it easier to gain access in the past. You want to get alerted when that happens, and that's something that you can monitor and that you can get an alert on. In fact, with WhatsUp Gold, you can actually automatically revert to established configurations. So if you're really concerned with maintaining compliance, or you've got compliance requirements that dictate a specific configuration type, you want to automatically be able to revert to that if someone changes it, whether intentionally or maliciously. That can be really valuable because that can help you prove later that hey, all of the devices are configured the exact same way. You get 50 new routers, you want to put them on board? No problem. One button, assign them the role of router, and that configuration gets automatically applied. It's a huge lifesaver instead of trying to go through and do it manually and maybe fat fingering something. And again, the alerts are a key part of this. When something goes wrong, you want to know about it so that you can investigate further. And again, with the level of visibility and the level of observability that's going on right now, because education and government are being targeted, you want as much early warning as possible. The other piece, too, is consolidation. And I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. If you've got a variety of different pieces sending you information from a variety of different areas, it's overload. You can't determine which item is screaming at you. And what you want is you want to get all of your alerts coming in one area and coming in one stream that's easier to digest. So if they're consolidated, you can see the alerts, and you can also get what I like to call metadata from the alerts. If something goes down and then everything downstream goes down, well, that first one that went down gives you a lot more information. In fact, with WhatsUp Gold, in fact, you get alert storms like that. When something goes down, it will automatically ignore any alerts coming from anything downstream because, of course, they're no longer connected. But similarly, if you're seeing a bunch of things go down and they're all in the same geographic region, well, maybe check. Maybe there's been a power outage in that region, and it's not just one individual item. Information like that goes a long way towards figuring out what the problem is and how to resolve it. More importantly, if you've got everything coming in one spot, it makes it a lot easier for you not only to understand that information, but also to make it available to others. So we can set up alerts in a variety of different ways. You can get them through the web, you can get a text alert, you can get them in email, and all of these can be to one or multiple people. The one thing that we've done relatively recently is also make them available via Slack, which is fantastic. If you're not there, you're homesick, someone else is around, everyone on the team can get notified that, hey, something's out, and then someone at least can take advantage of that. Teams is a great option as well. I'm probably not allowed to say anything about it right now, but there will be the capability to also send alerts via Teams and WhatsApp Gold. So there's that to look forward to. The advantage of this, of course, is not only increased efficiency, but the ability to identify issues before they start impacting your end users. And that, again, is the entire point of this. And finally, and those of you who are very sharp-eyed will have noticed I promised 5 best practices. I'm actually giving you 6. This one kind of occurred to me at the last moment. I crammed it in here. Big piece of what's being required here in the educational and government industries is that everything needs to be reported. Again, especially with all the hacks that are going on in the news, people want to know what's going on. They want better visibility. The higher-ups want better visibility. And the more you can share information, the more you can keep everyone safe and keep everyone aware of what's going on with your network. Reporting is a surprisingly important part of network monitoring and management that doesn't tend to get a ton of attention. You want to provide reports to people who need them, because otherwise they're going to come bug you for it, and then you're putting these things together manually. If you can automatically generate the kind of reports that individual people need and get them out to them, then that takes a huge amount of effort and time out of your day that you can be better spent doing almost anything else. So you've got someone in accounting who simply wants to know, for example, what's our usage of cloud services versus what we're spending on it, because that's his job, that's what he's tracking. Instead of him bugging you every week or two for outdated information, you can have a system that runs automatically every morning and sends a report of what went on the last 24 hours, the last week, and the last month, and have it emailed directly to his inbox. You can even just give him a link and he can see it live and do his own research if he needs to. The ability to schedule this makes a huge difference. If you are spamming, and that's the wrong term, but effectively spamming everyone in your organization with the kind of information they need, they're not going to come bugging you for it, and frankly, they're going to be able to always refer to it if they do need it. There's hundreds of out-of-the-box reports that are built into WhatsApp Gold, but there's no view or dashboard or data in there that you can't set up as a report. And WhatsApp Gold does real-time performance monitoring, so you can get very, very granular down to the minute of when things are available, when things aren't. And another piece of this that's also important is this can resolve a lot of issues regarding compliance and asset inventory requirements. Again, with compliance, you need to prove that you are actually in compliant or are compliant with specific regulations. A regular report that comes out every week, the auditors aren't going to come calling. All they have to do is look at that report, and they know one way or another. And by the way, if the report isn't good, you know. So that's a key advantage. It's going to save you some time and some stress. Asset inventory is another one that's interesting because, again, we're in the same situation. This is a double-edged sword. We talked about this earlier where, both of these industries are under tremendous financial pressure to do more with less, and at the same time they're dealing with aging networks. Not only are you able to, with one button or one click, create a complete list of every single asset in your network, but you can also determine how old they are, whether or not some of them have been patched, whether or not they need patching, what OSs they're running, even form factor, everything. And this has two advantages. One, it can show exactly how complicated the job is when people start wondering why you guys are spending money. And two, it can show you, hey, you know what? You still got a bunch of old, Windows Vista servers out there, or Windows Vista desktops, and they're not patchable and they're not supported anymore. And, hey, boss, you may need to cough up some money to replace those because those are now a massive security hole. And, that's one thing you can mention it in a meeting, and yeah, sure. But if there's a report coming out regularly with those highlighted in red, all of a sudden it does two things. First of all, it covers you. You've reported the issue. And second of all, it puts a little bit more pressure because someone's seeing those reports and going, yeah, we need to do something about that, and it's coming up regularly. So don't think of reporting as a chore. Think of it as something you set up once, and it handles itself, and it's something you can leverage. It is tremendously valuable to be in some sort of meeting or budget review and say, hey, here's the data, and not only here's the data, it's been in your inbox every week for the last year. So what exactly is WhatsUp Gold able to monitor? We talked about this earlier on, but I just want to kind of give you the brief overview. Everything on the right, obviously, we can monitor. And again, this is a bit more important for education, but these are the sort of things that both faculty and students are going to be doing and are going to be accessing and using. And again, there is a legitimate educational purpose for some of it, but not necessarily all of it. So it is something you do need to pay attention to. And again, it's a little bit different. A lot of organizations, a lot of businesses, either they've got the money to afford the bandwidth where this isn't a problem, or they just don't allow it at all. And you're in a situation where that may be case by case, or you have to provide a certain amount of capacity. Along with those, you're looking at things like network devices, where we can monitor key metrics like interface utilization. We can monitor all of your systems, servers, even right down to the workstation to determine things like processor utilization, memory storage. When do you need new hard drives? What isn't being used that you can maybe decommission. Various hardware performance indicators. Big one is fan. Everything's overheating. Well, either that thing needs to be cleaned, it's getting old, or you got a fire in your server room. And of course, virtual. Things get lost in virtual all the time. What's the CPU usage? Where are those virtual machines? What interfaces are they using? How much memory? Has someone set up a VM and then never took it down, and how come it's eating up 80% of the bandwidth? Things like that. This is where you can get a real advantage in finding this sort of stuff and shutting it down. And then, of course, wireless. We're in a world where no end user has plugged something physically into their machine in years, and they expect that to keep moving like that going forward. Is your signal strength okay? Is everyone able to get on board? Is everything working? All of these are the sort of things that you can monitor with WhatsUp Gold. You can get alerts on, and you can fix. And this is kind of the double-edged sword, unfortunately, of being in the IT administrator sort of space. If you are doing your job, everyone wonders why they're paying you, because everything's working perfectly. And I know for a fact, I used to start presentations back when we did these things live by saying, put your hand up if one of your users came by today and shook your hand and said, thank you, the internet was working perfectly, and all my stuff downloaded and all my email went through, good job. It's like, those of you listening to this are probably laughing right now because that never happens. If everything works, why are they paying you? But then when things don't work, then why are they paying you? These guys can't keep the network going up. What's wrong? What's the problem? It's a thankless job, unfortunately, and it should be appreciated. That's why we have a special systems administrator day. But you're going to be much happier resolving issues before they impact your end users than waiting until you've got a crowd of angry users with pitchforks and torches hammering on your cubicle door going, hey, the email server's been down for 4 hours. Why haven't you done anything yet? And that's the first you've heard about it. So again, I kind of went a little broader than just the education and government industries with that last piece there. At this point, I just wanted to let you know we do have a good feel for some of our customers and what they're doing and some of the pressures they're under, and we're looking to help them. Now, with that said, I'll take any questions you might have.
Great presentation, Mark. Really appreciate that. We do have a lot of good questions coming in for you. This is really fun for me personally. I used to use WhatsUp Gold so many years ago, so it's cool to see how far I'm sure you guys have come along since way back when. So, but it was always such a helpful tool to us, and I know it could help a lot of companies out there as well. Let's see. First question that came in, they're asking about. Bradford wants to know, can WhatsUp Gold be installed on the cloud? And kind of follow-up question to that, there's another one here. Can it monitor applications or servers running in the cloud?
Short answers to both. WhatsUp Gold is an on-premises solution. It can technically be installed as a cloud solution, like you can install it up in the cloud if you want. The problem here is that tends to cause some issues because if your cloud access is acting up, then it's going to impact absolutely everything that WhatsUp Gold does. We do have some customers who, frankly, against our advice, have WhatsUp Gold installed in the cloud. We really strongly recommend you install it on a server that's local. This also kind of brings up some security issues. Again, depending on, especially in the government sector, you do end up in a situation where people want things on their own internal network rather than up in the cloud. Now, as to the second piece, can it monitor cloud resources? Absolutely. WhatsUp Gold goes out and does a search and looks for devices, and it will use APIs to look for cloud devices and things like, and cloud-based services like, for example, Meraki wireless access points. So any, not virtual, but cloud servers, any cloud storage, any cloud load balancers, they just get treated like any other device. And even though they may be on Azure's system or an AWS cloud, you see them on your screen just like any other device and can monitor and manage them the same way. I think I mentioned, you can do things like track cloud usage versus cloud expenditure.
Got it. Okay, excellent. And then I want to call everyone's attention to the poll question that's on the screen I just brought up that says, what additional information would you like about the Progress software solution? So we encourage you to respond to that poll. We appreciate your feedback, and I'll leave that up a little while longer while we take some more of your questions. Next question that came in, they're asking, can we monitor applications in different locations, but from a single dashboard?
Yes, WhatsUp Gold does have a distributed functionality that allows you to set up separate, we call them WhatsUp Gold core servers in different locations and monitor and manage all of that through one centralized dashboard. So you're effectively running multiple iterations of WhatsUp Gold, but it's all coming through one dashboard.
Nice.
And then, just to jump ahead, I have a few people who are asking about agents. WhatsUp Gold is an agentless solution. We do have the option for what we call scalability pollers, where you can install a scalability poller in a remote site to gather information and send it back, but it's more a concatenator. It's not a specific agent reaching out and getting everything. WhatsUp Gold talks directly to each individual device.
Great. Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, no worries. Please, if there's any other questions that pop up there, feel free to jump in. Another question from the audience, they want to know, what about monitoring of VMware and Hyper-V? I know you mentioned virtualization.
Yep, that's we have a the difficult question. I'm looking at it right now is actually the additional licensing part. The simple question is absolutely we monitor both VMware and Hyper-V. WhatsUp Gold does come in a couple of different flavors and a couple of different levels. We have what we call WhatsUp Gold Premium, which has a great deal of basic capability and can be improved or enhanced with add-on modules. And some of them are, and the reason we do it this way is some people don't necessarily want to pay for capability they're not using. If they don't want to monitor virtual with WhatsUp Gold, they don't want to pay for it. But for things like application performance monitoring or network traffic analysis, configuration management, and log management and virtual monitoring, all of those are optional add-ons, unless you'd like to purchase the WhatsUp Gold Total Plus version, which is all of that all wrapped up together in one package that's going to cost you considerably less than buying each one of them individually. And it's really just a question of what you want to do and what you want to spend your money on. We've found that a lot of our customers don't want to use some of those features, so they don't want to pay for it, whereas other users are not certain what they want to do or maybe planning on expanding, and it's easier to buy a one-size-fits-all solution.
Excellent. All right. Well, Mark, I'm afraid we're running out of time here in our live Q&A. If folks want to get started, it looks like they can just go to the Handouts tab, and there's a link to Progress Software, and there's even a free trial that they can sign up for as well. Is that right?
Absolutely. And in fact, let me make this perfectly clear. You can actually go and see a live demo on our website where you can actually play around with it a little bit, but it's read-only. On every single page of whatsupgold.com, there's a big red button saying free trial. And it's no obligation. You download it. It's good for 14 days, and it's very fast to install. Our solution, most of our customers install and are up and operating and then getting actionable data within about 30 minutes. And if nothing else, WhatsUp Gold has a really, really good discovery tool. If you guys do nothing else and don't give us a penny, go download the trial and use it to discover your network and see what's out there that you're not aware of. You don't have to use it after 14 days, but that will, if nothing else, give you a really good view and give you an idea of, hey, this is what's going on, and I guarantee you'll find something you didn't expect.
Awesome. All right. Well, it's been great having you on the event today. Thanks so much, Mark.
Thanks. My pleasure.
For more information, as Mark said, check out the Handouts tab, go to Progress Software, whatsupgold.com, and try out the solution for yourself. And with that, it's time to keep the EcoCast rolling. We're going to move on now to our next presenter and do something fun here. We're going to flip on our video and do a little bit of video discussion. I'm excited now to be joined by Mr. Ron Morita, VP of Engineering for Falcon Store. Ron, it's great to have you on. Take it away.
Thanks a lot, David. I'd like to talk today about modernizing the backup and long-term retention in the cloud, multi-cloud world, particularly for the government and education market. So first of all, who is Falcon Store? Falcon Store has over 20 years of experience protecting critical business data for with over 1 exabyte of data under management across 1,000 customers around the world. We have tremendous experience in federal, state, and municipal government organizations, as well as education. And we have a solution, which I'd like to talk about in this presentation, called StoreSafe, which really effectively reduces the cost and provides customer flexibility in their backup infrastructure. So in this slide, what I'd like to do is review the customer environment, how the backup and data protection environment looks like at real customer sites. So oftentimes there are multiple locations, multiple departments, multiple remote offices or schools. And sometimes those backup applications are actually different across each of the different locations. And those are going into tape libraries. Those tapes are being generated and from a tape library and labeled by an individual, put on a truck, moved off to an Iron Mountain or other archival tape retention facility. And this is a very slow, laborious, and error-prone process. So we've heard a lot of requirements coming from government and education customers. And I thought I'd map these out in this slide. First of all, these organizations are facing mounds of data. So the rate of growth of data is accelerating, and the always-on environment is actually shrinking the window of for backups. And this is creating a lot of pressure to be able to complete the backups on time and provide the RPOs and RTOs that are necessary for business continuity. And so one of the major things that customers are wanting is to be able to ensure that all of their data is being protected and that they can actually recover from that data. It's not just a matter of putting it into the backup, but it's also getting it back up, actually using it, having a business continuity system that actually works for them. And that means that the information needs to be secure and processed without the risk of either ransomware or other types of data piracy or threat. We're also hearing that customers are adopting disk pretty rapidly, but they also have tremendous mounds of tape that are critical to their backup and recovery solutions today. And they also want to move to the cloud. They want the flexibility to be able to select those media based on their SLAs for speed, retention, and cost, because tape is still quite a low cost solution. I think a major driving force for these customers is no forklifts. They want to be able to modernize their backup and retention solutions, but not be disruptive to all of their business processes and all of their training. So that's very important, that they're able to leverage the existing processes, leverage the existing backup applications, leverage the hardware and servers and storage that they already have, or that they want to evolve to. So we want to give them the flexibility of choice. And in particular, they want to be able to drive out the cost and complexity their backup solution, because backups certainly cannot grow at the rate as the data that they are trying to back up. They've got to be able to have a solution which gets ahead of it, which reduces the CapEx and reduces the OpEx on a per terabyte, per petabyte solution. So they also want to be able to reduce the footprint of their backup solution. So that means trying to reduce some of their data center footprint by leveraging the cloud. That may not be immediate, but that is something that's on the horizon. And so what they're looking for is a solution which will help them along in the journey to modernization, from where they are with tape all the way to the cloud and everywhere in between.
Ron, I hate to interrupt your presentation here. I'm learning a lot, but I want to ask you about a couple of things based on the audience questions that have come in. We're getting a lot of great questions from the audience. And the first one is, when you talk here about no forklifts, usually when we talk about putting in a new backup solution of some kind, you're replacing, you're displacing the current solution and putting in a new solution. So when you say no forklifts, does that mean that with Falcon Store, we don't have to get rid of our current backup application?
Absolutely right. That's really critical, because it can be very challenging with a large organization because they may have multiple backup applications across each organization that they're working with. So being able to en masse move the whole organization to some new technology is a difficult organizational problem, and it has real cost in terms of training, operational changes, and so when we talk about no forklifts, we want to be able to slide seamlessly into a customer's environment, be as minimally disruptive to it, and we've seen customers who are able to do it without any type of disruption to their existing infrastructure.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, that's a huge differentiator, in my opinion, here with the Falcon Store solution, is you don't have to replace your existing backup solution to get these benefits that you're talking about. And then there's a few other questions that have come in here about ransomware. Of course, it's the hot topic of the day. Public sector organizations out there are prime targets for ransomware. And so on here, you talk about how the data can become immutable, so the backup repository can't become infected with ransomware. And then you have rapid recovery. Do you want to talk for a moment here about the ransomware level of protection and recovery that this can provide?
Sure. So ransomware is a broad challenge, just as disaster recovery is really a full set of business processes. And we believe that the backup infrastructure is the foundation of that type of protection. So being able to actually have your data protected from a encryption perspective, both in flight as well as at rest, being able to do bare metal restore, for instance, to systems without having to put it onto tape. So being able to quickly recover from these type of threats that organizations are facing is very important and something that we really embrace.
Excellent. So you showed us what the backup architecture looks like today.
Yes.
Tell us and show us a little bit more about what it would look like with Falcon Store.
Sure. Great question. So after deploying StoreSafe at the customer site, what we're able to do is, again, fit seamlessly into a customer on-premise environment or at an MSP or even in the cloud. We're software, so we can operate in any of those modalities. And we're able to be the central consolidation point for backups coming from different locations and from different backup applications, different backup servers. And this gives us tremendous advantage because we're able to dedupe all of that information and provide up to 95% deduplication. So that is tremendous savings in terms of your storage. And it has tremendous benefits in terms of replicating that information because we're only replicating the deduplicated blocks of data. So that makes all of these other processes much faster, much more reliable, and much more secure. The other point is that StoreSafe is really this point of being able to direct the data to offsite protection, whether it's a separate data center, whether it's in the cloud, or even into tape. So we support all of those modes because we really feel that it's important to be able to help the customer, enable the customer pursue the journey to modernization at their own pace. And so that may mean using tape, using object store, using the cloud, or any combination of those options. And we give that flexibility while not disrupting their operation or requiring retraining of the staff.
Yeah, what interests me here immediately is on the left, you've got multiple backup servers, backup server A, backup server B. And so as we talked about, no forklift is needed. I like that. And then the StoreSafe becomes kind of the central repository and point of protection for your data, no matter whether what backup application it's on and what SAN it's on and what object storage it's being stored in. One question that came in here from the audience, they're asking is, does this support existing tape drives?
Yes. Both in terms of, we support the full array of LTO tape drives, both for import as well as export. So we have tremendous flexibility. And so as a software-only solution, we qualify with different hardware. So whether it's servers, storage, networking, also with our applications, and also different types of media, whether it's cloud object store or tape.
And then there's another question. They want to know what public clouds are supported in terms of replicating this data, getting this data offsite.
We support all the major clouds and the major public clouds, as well as MSPs acting as a cloud provider, or even the customer's own data center acting in a cloud type of architecture. So that's what we really mean when we talk about a multi-cloud environment. It's not just multiple public clouds, but it's really multiple tiers of cloud also.
Got it. And then, every time we put up an architecture diagram like this, we get a lot of questions. Another one here, they want to know, where does this actually install or run? Does this run just on-prem? Does it run in the cloud? How does that work?
We actually, again, being a software-only solution, we give you the flexibility to optimize your backup infrastructure. So StoreSafe can run in the cloud, and so you can back up directly to the cloud. Or it could run on-prem and replicate into the cloud, or StoreSafe can run in an MSP and be the disaster recovery, the second data center for a customer. So we give the customer tremendous flexibility in how they want to build their or evolve their disaster recovery solution.
Excellent.
Thank you. Great questions. So the StoreSafe is an enterprise class software solution to modernize your backup infrastructure. And so some of the key points is that we enable you to upgrade and modernize your infrastructure without a rip and replace, and without changing your backup processes or the training of your operators. So we have tremendous level of throughput, 360 terabytes per hour using 9 industry standard servers. So we run across different servers, all of the major brands of servers, as well as storage. So we give, again, the customer flexibility and ease of deployment. The installation and upgrade is non-disruptive to your applications and to your backup processes. And we provide the security through encryption at rest and also in flight. And of course, because we're doing so much deduplication, our replication is extremely efficient. So we're bandwidth efficient if you have replication across multiple sites or multiple clouds. We're able to extend the solution by adding more compute or more storage as needed, as your organization grows. So you don't have to pre-plan and purchase all of the hardware for your future needs. We're extremely extensible from both the compute as well as the storage, and we're extensible for long-term retention into the cloud. The fact that we're able to do the deduping within our compute nodes means that we're not overburdening the application servers. And so we're offloading that processing to our system also. Using object storage, whether it's in the cloud or on-prem, gives low-cost solution for long-term retention. It enables long-term retention versus the expense of keeping it on-prem. Active-active high availability architecture. This comes in really two flavors, both the active-active replication between data centers, so you don't have to build out a high availability cluster, or the other alternative is to be able to replicate active-active up into the cloud or have a cluster on-prem. So there's multiple ways to achieve the same level of protection, which allows you to achieve different cost structures for your overall solution. And again, we are very media agnostic, so we're able to create and ingest physical tapes, move data off into a cloud, public cloud, private cloud, MSP cloud, your own cloud, and we're very efficient from a bandwidth perspective for our replication.
Ron, every time I look at a slide here, the question comes up, do you do this, this, and that? And the answer is always yes. I'm seeing a lot of flexibility here. Next question that came in from the audience, they're asking about the licensing model. You talked about replicating from one site to another site. Does that incur an additional license, or how does that work?
We do it by capacity-based licensing, so rather than instance-based. So that gives the customer really a lot of flexibility in terms of how they want to architect their solution.
Excellent. Thanks, Ron. Let's see, another question that came in, they're asking, why wouldn't I just use a backup appliance?
So that's an excellent question. And I've actually led engineering for one of the leading backup appliance vendors. And what I think was so compelling about the Falcon Store solution is the fact that it's 100% software. That gives the customer so much flexibility. It allows them to avoid vendor lock-in at the hardware level. It allows them to upgrade seamlessly. It allows them to deploy in different architectures for backup and DR. So I think the software-only solution is a tremendous way of providing this type of data protection. And also, there's also the question of the level of deduplication. So being able to add more compute nodes and ingest these tremendous levels of data coming from the backup applications has huge benefits in terms of shrinking the backup window. So being able to let the computers and the applications run without disruption of backup. These are huge benefits that I think Falcon StoreSafe has.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you. So of course, this solution has a tremendous GUI, which provides a global view of the StoreSafe solution. So this allows you to have reporting on its operational efficiency, the deduplication efficiency, as well as in the case of an MSP or backup as a service within the organization, being able to do billing. So being able to provide the information in a very simple way that can be easily applied to a billing system. So we do support secure multi-tenancy between tenants. And so that is valuable even in the case of an educational institution where you need to secure the data between different departments, different research organizations within a university, while still getting the benefit of deduplication, global deduplication across all of those sites, because there is no visibility of the information, and the deduplication process doesn't expose your data while still getting the storage efficiency of across the whole organization. So the StoreSafe StoreSite is really the command console across the system, wherever the StoreSafe application may be deployed. Again, whether it's on-prem, MSP, or even in the cloud, one simple console to view all of your information. So in summary, what I'd really like to review are the key benefits that StoreSafe brings to the government and education market. So in the requirement around protecting more and more data, we accelerate the whole process of the backup and recovery. And what this means is that your systems and applications are more available. They're not being down for backup. Your backup window can be shrunk so that you get more availability and usage for the applications. Of course, security is foremost on our mind, and so being able to ensure that the integrity as well as the security of the data that we're saving wherever it might be, whether on-prem, remote, in the cloud, or in the MSP. All of these things are managed and given visibility through our management application. Disk, cloud, and tape, we're media agnostic, so we are able to support and enable customers to move along the road to modernization. So we're not going to force the customer to do a forklift upgrade and change their processes across the whole organization, in which the administrator might not even have the controlled or organizational position to dictate. So just from the backup process perspective. And then no forklift also means that we're not requiring hardware to be changed, whether it's the physical servers or the storage. All of these things can be done separately from our protection software and at your own pace. And that makes a lot of difference when you have a distributed organization, distributed control. And in terms of driving out cost and complexity, we get tremendous dedupe at 20 to 1. So we make the use of the hardware, whether it's on-prem hardware, MSP hardware, or even the cloud storage. We make the best use of that through our deduplication process. And it also saves the bandwidth because we're able to shift only the duplicated blocks and information. So the bandwidth is saved, enabling all sorts of different kinds of protection architectures against the RTO, RPO requirements and business continuity requirements of your organization. So we're not trying to dictate any of those things. We're not trying to disrupt those decisions, but instead we simply want to be able to accelerate your path to modernization.
Excellent. And then it looks like we're starting to run out of time here. Last question I wanted to ask you, there's a couple of folks out there, they want to know, what should they do to get started with this solution? What do you recommend?
Visit our website, falconstore.com. And we'll also be reaching out to those in the audience who expressed an interest.
Excellent. Thanks so much for being on the event today, Ron.
Thank you, David. It was fun.
All right, great discussion. Thank you so much, Ron, and thank you to the Falcon Store team. I've just brought up the poll question for everyone out there that says, what additional information would you like about the Falcon Store solution? They want to hear your feedback. What's your next step? We got a lot of great questions, as you could tell from the discussion there from the audience. If you have a question, now's the time to get it in. The experts from Falcon Store, Ron and the team are here standing by answering all your questions electronically as quickly as they can, so keep those questions coming. I'm going to go ahead and leave up this poll question for everyone to respond to while I announce our first gift card winner. We've got our first Amazon $500 gift card. This is going out to Alex Pham, P-H-A-M, from Minnesota. Congratulations, Alex Pham from Minnesota. We'll reach out to you after the event to deliver your gift card. Don't forget about, we've got 2 other Amazon $500 gift cards still on the event today. And then, don't forget about our best question gift cards as well. Those 6 Amazon $50 gift cards. All right, congratulations to Alex. And thank you to everyone here who is responding to the poll. I'll give you a few more moments to answer that question. You just do it right there in the slides window, and then we'll move on to our next presenter. All right, thank you to the feedback, or thank you for the feedback there on the poll question. And thank you to everyone who asked a question there in the console. We do appreciate it. And now let's go ahead and move on to our next presentation. I'm excited now to introduce Mr. Aaron Lewis, Public Sector Sales Engineering Director at Rubrik. Aaron, it's great to have you on.
Hi, thanks. It's a real pleasure to be here as well.
Absolutely. Take it away, Aaron.
All right, thank you. So, as David mentioned, my name is Aaron Lewis. I run the Public Sector Sales Engineering team here at Rubrik, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about how Rubrik can help modernize your data protection response. So, one of the first questions that I'm sure everyone on this call has asked themselves at one point in time is my data safe? And as I can imagine, everyone out here has different layers of security to protect your data, from all the way out at the perimeter and the network into endpoint security, and then maybe even down to some level of application security. But the unfortunate reality is that the bad actors are aware of a lot of those strategies and have become very sophisticated in getting through those, right? And so in many cases, what we see is organizations with very strong perimeter security responses still getting infected and still getting attacked. One of the things that we came to light with and decided a long time ago was that because data protection and backup is really that last line of defense, we decided to secure that data and add in really what we consider a belt and suspenders method, so that even if those bad actors get through the perimeter, they get through the network, Rubrik has built in cyber resilience into its data protection, into its platform, so that when the bad actor gets in, they're stymied from actually getting to the data. Because ultimately, the reality is that everybody on this call today wants, if you get hit by an attack, the goal is to get back up and running as fast as possible, right? And the way that you do that is by leveraging a modern data protection solution that has a lot of the features that I'm going to talk to you about here today. So let's talk a little bit today about what today's threat looks like, right? So in many cases, when an attack hits, ransomware locks down that data, right? And a ransom note is received. After that ransom note is received, organizations have basically 2 options, right? One is either pay the ransom, or 2, attempt to recover. Ultimately, obviously the desired response is to attempt to recover. And so the organization begins to look, and they leverage IT operations to see, can we restore the backup data? They talk to security operations about performing forensics. And in most instances, those are separate functions, and they may actually be blocking one another from happening. Security operations may need to actually do forensics before data gets restored. Restoring data might actually hinder the investigation into the attack itself. So, but what happens in the worst case scenario? So I'll a little bit about my history. I was previously in IT for about 15 years before moving over to the vendor space. And every time I read a story about a ransomware attack where the ransomware gets in and then not only corrupts and encrypts the production data, but also encrypts and corrupts the backup data, I got to tell you, I kind of shiver, because that to me is that's the definition of a very bad day in technology. And so when that happens, generally organizations are left with one option, and that's pay the ransom, right? The second option is, however, okay, so let's say we've determined that the backups are safe, right? The data is there, we can recover from it. The next challenge that most organizations go through is what to recover, what has been affected, and then the last piece is really time, right? And really probably one of the most important factors in this process is getting back up and running as quickly as possible and being able to either serve your mission or serve your constituents in some way with whatever service is down. And in many cases, organizations find that can take weeks or months. When it comes to bringing back tapes from a physical location, that can be a real challenge, right? And so then again, we get back to paying the ransom, the undesired result. So how does Rubrik help with that? So again, we have the same situation, right? Ransomware has locked down the data. We've got two options. Now, in this case, with Rubrik deployed, we have a couple different things that can happen here. One of the first that happens is that because we have enabled additional services to not only detect and determine the scope of the attack, and I'll get into some more detail on how we do that, we enable a cross-collaboration between IT operations and security operations, right? So this enables a quicker response and a more coordinated response. So those teams can then go determine the backups are safeguarded, and I'm going to talk about how those backups are safeguarded. They can determine the scope of the attack or the blast radius. I'm going to talk about a little bit about that concept here in a bit. They can discover if any sensitive data has been accessed, right? This is also another key aspect of a lot of modern day attacks, which is not only are they going to encrypt your data, but potentially exfiltrate it and put it out publicly if the ransom isn't paid. And then the last piece is really being able to recover fast. And what that gets down to is the ability to be 100% guaranteed that you can recover your data in the case of one of these attacks. So let's dive a little deeper into how it works. So at the heart, something that we've been doing for about 7 years now is really modernizing data protection. We've taken all of these legacy architectures, which is, software running on disparate hardware, connecting up to separate storage, and we've built this all into a single, simple software platform that's designed for lower TCO and enables easy access to cloud and API-driven automation. So all of those things that are really key to a modern data protection solution today. We also ensure that data is always available. We have an immutable append-only file system with an air gap built into the architecture and a zero trust architecture. And I'm going to dive in again a little bit here and go into what some of those pieces mean. Built-in forensics. So this is that blast radius that I talked about. So the ability to really understand the scope of the attack, analyze whether sensitive or regulated data is impacted, and then whether specific users are involved. Right? These are all key aspects, because a lot of times some of these cases may not necessarily be external actors. They might potentially be internal ones, and knowing who did what in those cases can be extremely important. And then key to our really kind of one of our foundations and one of the value propositions of Rubrik is that we have always from day one been 100% API first architecture. So everything that you can do in our platform can be integrated into an industry standard REST API. And what that's enabled us to do is build integrations with products like Palo Alto's Cortex XSOAR or Splunk. So we can have that deep integration with the SIM and the SOAR platforms that then drives additional collaboration across the teams and ultimately a quicker response. And then lastly, the capability and the ability to do near instant recovery, right? So we have a technology we call Live Mount, enables a faster recovery time objective or RTO. In addition, because of the built-in forensics and the ability to really understand the scope of the attack, restores can be done in a granular fashion or potentially even bulk recovery from recent clean versions. And in addition, we also include orchestrated runbooks to get environments back up and running. So let's talk a little bit about the key principles of data protection. So I've mentioned 3 terms during this so far during my kind of intro here, and that's the idea of an air gap, immutability, and zero trust. So I want to define those terms because I think they're important to framing this conversation. So an air gap can come in 3 flavors. One is just none. Backups are permanently online. A lot of the software that we see out in the market today operates much in this method. You're backing up to some target that has industry standard protocols like NFS or CIFS exposed to the network. The only thing locking it down is some kind of maybe an ID, a login credential. In our argument, that is completely, there's no air gap there. Logical air gap would be a situation where those backups are completely offline because there is no interface to them. There is no network ability to get to that data, and I'll talk about how we do that with Rubrik. And then physical would be disconnected. This is really the kind of gold standard of air gap that would really be tape. But as we talked about earlier, the restore times from tape can be particularly challenging. There have been many stories in the news where we've seen customers that have had to, get entire pallets of tapes back from, say their Iron Mountain vendor, and have challenges because 1, either those tapes aren't readable, or 2, it just takes too long to get them reread and restored from. Now, immutability is a term you've probably been hearing quite a bit out in the market today. Mutable really at its heart just means 2 things. It means one thing. It means either the data can be edited, which is mutable, or it cannot be edited, which is immutable. So we'll talk about that a little bit more here in a second as well. And then zero trust. So zero trust is another term I think that is being used quite a bit today. In a traditional zero trust environment, or the traditional architecture, we really trust at the perimeter level. Attacks like a few years ago that Target, I'm sure most of you are familiar with, when they got attacked, they had a really strong perimeter security, but once someone got in, it was really, you'll hear different people talk about kind of an egg security, where it's really hard on the outside and soft in the middle, because once an attacker gets internal or has compromised those credentials, they're able to roam around within the environment. Zero trust would be, we never trust, and that we always verify. So then on every interaction, every network interaction afterwards, every login, there's a verification step. So this is where Rubrik lives. So Rubrik has a logical offline backup. We'll talk a little bit about how that works. So there are no traditional storage protocols exposing the network or exposing the backups to the network. Only the Rubrik software can actually access that. In addition, that file system that's built into the Rubrik fabric is completely immutable. It was designed to be appended to or deleted, right? And so there's no way to get in and change the data. Some attacks that we've seen out in the world are kind of insertion attacks, where ransomware can actually get in and change the data that sits in the backup target, and then there's no way to know whether you're actually restoring known good data. And then zero trust. Zero trust is key as well. So within the Rubrik appliance, all data is encrypted at rest, encrypted in flight. All communications between any of the processes on our nodes are encrypted with TLS 1.2. There's certificates involved in all of it, and this is a key aspect to kind of our security posture. So let's talk a little bit about how that would work and how that differs from a traditional architecture. So in a traditional architecture, during a ransomware attack, ransomware comes in, attacks the production servers, and in many cases goes in and then encrypts or compromises the backup proxies, the backup servers, and the backup catalog. One of the ways that it's able to do this is that many of these services are built on Microsoft Windows. And as many of us know, I'm sure as many of you know out there, Windows has a much larger attack surface, I think, than a lot of the kind of hardened appliances out there. It also tends to be a real favorite target for most of the bad actors. So because the backups can be accessed, modified, and deleted from the network, the next thing the ransomware will do is go in and go after that disk-based backup target, right? So if your backup target is using NFS or CIFS, it's ultimately vulnerable to a ransomware attack. And then so with no air gap, no native immutability, the system is completely vulnerable to an attack, and a major attack becomes an unrecoverable event, right? And this is the kind of thing that in the commercial space can be the death of a business, and in our public sector space, right, the consequences can be dire in terms of not being able to get back and having to rebuild all the systems from scratch. So Rubrik Zero Trust architecture is really built from the ground up to keep no storage on the network, right? Backups cannot be modified or encrypted. We use multi-factor authentication with time-based, one-time only passwords. And so this now makes a major attack a recoverable event, right? So being able to lock all of this down makes the ransomware can get in, it can maybe get to your SAN, it can get to your production servers, but it cannot get to the data that's protected on Rubrik. So a little bit of detail how that works. So as I mentioned earlier, Windows tends to be a favorite target of a lot of the ransomware platforms out there, or ransomware attacks out there. The Rubrik software is built at its heart from a hardened, fully integrated Linux platform. And then we layer on the three things that I mentioned earlier, which is a zero trust design, end-to-end encryption, and an immutable file system. On top of that, then, what we've built is we've added in multi-factor authentication, time-based one-time only password. So think about your bank, right? If you log into your bank and you either get a text message or you use an authenticator app on your phone to log in, this is built into the Rubrik appliance. It's built in whether you go in through the UI or the CLI or you leverage one of our APIs, the ability to have this multi-factor authentication so that even if an attacker gets in, compromises your credentials, compromises your Active Directory, and then goes and tries to expire out your backups, it's unable to. So we've blocked it down there again. And then the last feature that really ensures that, so even in the worst case scenario of an internal bad actor, we have the ability to turn on something called retention lock. I like to think of this as the kind of two-key nuclear approach, because once we turn the nuclear launch codes, once we turn this on, in order to turn off retention lock and expire out old backups or delete data, we need actual written confirmation from two officers or designated folks within the organization to be able to make that happen. So we've protected against all the potential attack vectors and really made what we like to call a bunker in a box, right? To ensure 100% guaranteed recoverability during what is today, I think, the most common modern disaster recovery event, which is ransomware. Let me talk a little bit about, and I mentioned accelerated recovery. I'm going to move through this kind of quickly and talk about how we've done some really unique things around getting that data back up and running, because I've talked about how the data is secure, but let's talk about how we get back online. So the first real benefit is the ability to scope anomalous events. So one of the unique aspects of being a data protection platform is we touch all the data. We touch it on a regular basis because we're protecting it on a regular basis. And so we have machine learning and AI built into our software platform that enables us to investigate suspicious changes to applications and files. We can pinpoint the timing of those anomalies and also then the blast radius. So did it affect the entire environment, or is it just limited to a subset of your data? And then we can take all of that insight and integrate it right back into things like Splunk or XOR via our rich API integration. We can assess risk. So this is an important aspect, right? There have been some stories in the news of organizations that have been hit with ransomware. There was a big healthcare organization that got hit last year, where the organization was asked to pay a ransom, otherwise they would release all this data. The company had to go out and invest in a big ID secure package for all of their customers. There was a lot of cost. There was a lot of potential risk. They didn't know what data had been hit. After the FBI came in and did the investigation, they realized that only 2% of their user accounts had actually been accessed. And so they would have been able, had they known this from the start, they would have been able to better assess what that risk was during that event, as opposed to simply using more of a shotgun approach. So one of the unique things that we can do is then determine if sensitive or regulated data is actually in the scope of the attack, and then again integrate those insights back into your security software. Third thing then is taking all of those insights, taking that blast radius, leveraging it with our live mount technology, which allows us to nearly instantly recover hundreds of virtual machines or file systems, and allows you to do this in a granular method rather than simply going out and just shotgunning recoveries across the environment. And then the last piece is enabling you to do orchestrated recovery with blueprints that will tell you what data comes up at what time, network changes, those kind of things. So a lot of sophistication around the recovery piece. And then, as I mentioned earlier, this is all integrated. So we enable the IT ops and security ops in some of your smaller organizations. Those might be one organization, but in many today, we're finding that security is becoming such a big part of the landscape that there are teams being spun up all over the country. And so being able to integrate that with those tools and enable collaboration between those teams, we think is a big benefit. And then, you know, if any of you'd like to explore this later, I've got a ton of different folks that have experienced the benefits. Unfortunately, a lot of these folks have been hit by ransomware. City of Durham at the top of that list came out publicly. They were very excited because after they got hit with ransomware, we were able to bring them back up and running within a weekend because nothing had compromised their backups. So really great stories around this, and you know, I welcome any questions around that. And if you'd ever like to get in touch with any of those folks, we can certainly set that up. So lastly, in summary, I just want to talk a little bit about how this all comes together in what we call zero trust data management. So as I mentioned before, we have this modern data platform that protects all of your applications within your agencies and your organizations, does it in a modern method with a zero trust architecture, native immutability, rapid recovery, and then an API first mentality, which allows you to integrate this within all of the different tools and platforms that you're using today, right? And then coupling that with cyber resilience, or that bunker in a box that I mentioned earlier, right? So really complementing and adding to the existing perimeter network and endpoint securities that you have today, and then securing your data intelligently at the data protection, the data management level, and enabling you to ensure getting back and up and running, you know, in the unfortunate case of an event. All right, thank you for your time.
Great presentation, Aaron. You ready for some questions from the audience?
I sure am.
Awesome. All right. While we do that, I'm just going to bring up this poll question for everyone out there. I want to call your attention to this poll on the screen. What additional information would you like about Rubrik? And we got a lot of great questions coming in. I'm confident that many of you are wanting more information just based on so many questions. So first question comes in, and I know you piqued my interest and the audience's interest with this idea of a bunker in a box. What is that? When you say bunker in a box, they're wanting to know more details on exactly what is that? Is that a real appliance box, or is this just the Rubrik cluster, really?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's the Rubrik cluster, right? And so, most of my customers, when they consume the Rubrik software, purchase it on an appliance. So we have a hardened Linux appliance that gets deployed, multiple boxes that get shipped out. The bunker in the box concept is really more of a take your data protection, take your data management, deploy it in a single instance. So a Rubrik cluster that then has all of those security methods built in, at the core, built into the actual architecture and the software from the start, as opposed to being add-on or bolt-on features after the fact.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. Another question here, Stuart is asking about, Microsoft 365 data that's in Microsoft services like that. Can Rubrik protect that?
We can, yes, absolutely. That's a great question. So I didn't get into the 365 protection that much, but we have a modern SaaS-based Microsoft 365 platform that can be consumed in two different ways. We have we can host the entire thing ourselves, right? Where we manage all the storage. We give a single per user price. Really easy to consume, really easy to spin up, and very easy to just go ahead and try if someone wants to try that out for themselves on their own data.
Excellent. And then another question: what about how is Rubrik able to detect anomalous file activity?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, so a couple things that happen. As the nature of being a data protection platform is that, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, we see all of this data and we touch it on a daily or for a lot of my customers, more than daily time frame. Sorry. And so each time we take a backup, for us, that's a snapshot in time. So we'll take that snapshot and we'll compare it to the previous snapshot and determine multiple different things. We'll determine if there is an anomalous change rate. So maybe, like in the case of a potential bad actor, maybe someone has deleted, 100% of the files, and normally the change rate in that folder is only 5%. And so we'll detect on that. In addition, we'll look for things like, I can't give away all the details of what we look for, but it's like we'll look for file name extensions, encryption, various signatures, those kind of heuristic details. And then the unique aspect of it is that the product is always learning. So in that instance, I gave a file of a bunch of files being deleted. If a folder has a really kind of high change rate because of some process that's happening on it, we'll learn that, and then once you've whitelisted that, we'll determine that shouldn't be alarmed on anymore.
Interesting. Okay, very cool. Another question they want to know about: how will Sonar help me if I've been hit by ransomware?
Yeah, I think the best example is the one I gave around knowing which data has been accessed, because as we've seen, these attacks are getting more and more sophisticated, and it's no longer just a case of, hey, I'm going to encrypt your data, you can't access it. In many cases, it's I've got your data and I'm going to either release it publicly or I'm going to use it in some way to ruin your public reputation. And so having not only an anomaly, a ransomware detection piece, coupled with a sensitive, like a data classification piece, enables us to give all of that information at one time and say, for example, okay, my home shares got attacked, but I look in there and I go, no, there's absolutely no PII. There's no personally identifiable identification in there. There's no social security numbers. There's no student numbers. And so maybe I'm able to adjust my response because of that.
Very nice. Very nice. And so I'm afraid we're running out of time here in our live Q&A, but Aaron, what should folks do to get started with Rubrik?
Yeah, I think a great way to get started is to go to the website, check out some information. Also, feel free to email me directly if you'd like. My email is very simple. It's lewis@rubrik.com, and I'd be more than happy to put anyone in touch with their local account team, and we can go deeper on all of this.
Awesome. All right, lewis@rubrik.com. Aaron, it's been great having you on the event today. Thanks so much.
Great. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
And I want to encourage everyone out there in the audience to fill out the poll question there. We want your feedback. And also in the handouts tab, you'll find a link to a solution brief specifically for SLED or public sector organizations on the radically simplified data protection from Rubrik, as well as some quotes from public sector organizations who are current users of Rubrik. So make sure that you check that resource out and visit rubrik.com for more information. All right. Thank you to everyone who responded there to the poll. We do appreciate that. And thank you for all the excellent questions. We're routing those over to Aaron to respond to electronically, as well as the Rubrik team. Let's go ahead and keep our EcoCast moving. And it's now my pleasure to introduce our next presenter. Welcome, Nick, Principal Technology Strategist at Pure Storage. Nick, it's great to have you on. Take it away.
Hello, I'm Nick Saki, Principal Technology Strategist for North American Public Sector. I'm going to talk today about modern government transformation. Our session agenda. First, as big as it gets, and as complex too. Second, the 5 S's of government value selling. Third, the modern data experience for public sector. And fourth, the modern data portfolio. And finally, some links for you to follow to enhance the content that we're going to cover today. First, let's start with as big as it gets. Government IT spending is the largest single market worldwide, and government IT spending in the United States is no exception. In 2021, governments at the federal, state, local, and the higher education market have allocated $190 billion of IT spend, the largest single outlay for IT infrastructure, software, and services in the entire United States. To show that cloud spending is continuing to increase, $6.3 billion of that exclusively is set aside for spending on X as a service, infrastructure, platform, and software. This is projected to increase by 34% by fiscal year 2023. So the new IT imperatives of government are: number one, get to the cloud, multi-cloud, everywhere. Second, reduced cost, drive efficiency and agility in the IT infrastructure and as well in the maintenance, support, and sustainment. And finally, transform to digital, transforming the processes that have traditionally been manual or operator intensive and completely digitizing them to provide more seamless and efficient operations, as well as better constituent and customer services. Now, the 5 S's of this transformation are the essential value characteristics of transformational technology, particularly in government. And those 5 are: first, security. Security is the first, last, and foremost consideration of implementation of IT infrastructure. And this has become particularly true in this era of ransomware and heightened security threats to government agencies. Second, simplicity. Agencies need to make more happen with less work, with focus on application service delivery and outcomes, and less emphasis or eliminating the emphasis on managing, monitoring, and tuning infrastructure to support the operations. The cloud-like experience and the modern data experience require essentially invisible and infinite access to resources. Customers don't want to have to worry about how the system is working. They simply want to be able to work. Third, Scalability. Today's infrastructure needs to be able to address everything from very small implementations to internet scale in the same architecture, with the same bases, with the same application sets, so that edge nodes, influenced heavily by point of collection and further influenced by the advent and rollout of 5G and Internet of Things, can be deployed at the point where data is generated, processed forward, and then connected to increasingly larger scale infrastructure as the data moves back for use in the core. This scalability has to be seamless. It has to happen automatically, and it should simply be a function of the native capabilities of the infrastructure components and the software orchestrating the operations across the infrastructure. Technologies such as Kubernetes are enabling this to happen at web scale, even for organizations that are not themselves considered cloud service providers. So what this facilitates is the easy scaling from on-premises infrastructure and legacy to the cloud and back, making data available to application owners and users at the point of need, and dynamically being able to update capabilities simply through software and code as a service. Fourth, of course, sustainment. And in government, when we talk about sustainment, we're talking about product lifecycle sustainment. Tremendous benefit that Pure Storage's customers and government have realized is that we cancel technical debt and we future-proof the data service infrastructure in their enterprises. Our evergreen sustainment model and our fair, flat, and forever business process means that for as long as the systems are maintained under maintenance, they're upgraded non-disruptively in place by simply continuing to sustain a fixed cost maintenance contract. This guarantees that the infrastructure that you purchased 3 years ago or 6 years ago is now modernized and able to handle all of the current workloads and future workload demands that the infrastructure may have to absorb. And finally, speed. Anything that is purchased by a government agency today has to perform much better than what it's replacing. And that's a reasonable expectation. That's part of the essence of modernization. Now, if these 5 S's are fundamental, then let's talk about how Pure Storage is able to address those in your organization or agency. First, let's talk about security. Pure inherently builds security into every product that we meet, and then we go and meet the standards and get the certification and validation required to provide our customers with the assurance that what they're employing meets the highest national standards and international standards for employment in their enterprises. The Pure Storage Flash Array products are NIOP and Common Criteria certified. We are the only all-flash array to achieve certification by the National Information Assurance Partnership in the United States, which is the US component of the 25-nation Common Criteria Consortium, providing the assurance of the highest security standards for everything from patient information, taxpayer information, basically anything across the spectrum that has to be protected, and enabling agencies to meet their regulatory compliance mandates seamlessly, inherently, without having to bolt on anything extra. And of course, all of our data in all of our platforms is encrypted at rest using AES 256 encryption. And these systems have been validated and certified by the National Institute for Standards and Technology to meet FIPS 140-2 standards for data at rest encryption. So our security components of our Purity operating environment incorporate software and hardware measures to meet the highest security standards, ensuring the safety of customer data while streamlining administrative requirements. It's all built in, it's all transparent, and it all just works. So how do we do data protection? A wide range of data protection management and availability features are built into our systems. We provide real-time business continuity through our active cluster synchronous replication capability, our proven 6 nines of storage availability, and our non-disruptive storage upgrades. Second, we provide days to months of operational recovery of your data. We enable this by high-performance snapshots and clones, rapid restore backup storage to FlashBlade and FlashArray-C FlashBlade Safe Mode snapshots for ransomware recovery, which are now also available in the FlashArray platform. These are immutable snapshots that cannot be exposed or unlocked exclusively by local system administrators. They require additional authorizations from outside the organization to remove the snapshots, and thus providing a tremendous degree of protection from inside bad actors, whether they are malware, ransomware, or of course, rogue administrators. And finally, we provide asynchronous WAN replication from array to array and from array to the cloud. So you have the benefit of distributed and inaccessible replication and the ability to replicate from anywhere to anywhere, thus providing significant benefit and security through dispersion of the data. And lastly, we can provide days to years of offsite and cloud replication and backup. Asynchronous WAN replication from array to array, from on-premises systems to other cloud service providers, or to cloud block storage platforms running in those service providers. We provide replication of the cloud, as I said, through Cloud Block Store, and also our Cloud Snap technology, which enables taking snapshots from our systems and posting them to off-premises cloud service providers such as Microsoft Azure and Amazon Web Services. We facilitate and inherently support replication to MSPs and co-location facilities via our asynchronous replication. And we can provide snapshot copy to tape through integration with our backup partners. And all of this is coordinated, integrated, and synchronized by virtue and assistance of our Pure One management, predictive support, and our Purity REST APIs for automation. Now let's shift to simplicity. Pure Storage prides itself on delivering agile data services that work for you, not against you. We provide industry-leading data reduction technologies that significantly reduce the cost per petabyte of storage, shrinking not only the cost and size of the systems that have to be employed, but also reducing the amount of rack space, power, cooling, and connections for those systems. So the follow-on savings effects are tremendous. We provide powerful REST APIs that facilitate lean IT staffing and drive operations, driving down the number of man hours required to sustain the systems and to gain the maximum benefit out of those systems. And by seamlessly integrating with popular operating environments and virtualization platforms, we make managing storage an integrated part of the infrastructure management service and provisioning, making effectively seamless and invisible storage addressed as services within an infrastructure rather than as discrete platform components. And finally, we provide simple but powerful user interfaces, reducing operational costs, and most support issues are initiated and resolved by Purity's predictive support. This drives down a tremendous amount of maintenance time and, of course, it shortens the time to resolution of technical challenges that are encountered in the infrastructure. This frees up the infrastructure staff to focus more on application service delivery and less on making the infrastructure perform to do certain desired tasks. So Pure Simplicity delivers modern infrastructure service management. We modernize your data experience, and we do this in a number of ways, but most notably, our Pure One software as a service cloud-based management platform provides global visibility into the overall performance of the fleet, all the way down to the individual system and even down to subcomponents of the system. We're able to see, analyze, and understand the workloads on the system by virtue of our Pure One Meta artificial intelligence-driven workload planner, which provides guidance on planning, capacity increases, data reallocation and rebalancing, and insight into how the infrastructure is performing worldwide, simply through a web service. This enables a customer to take the guesswork out of management. It provides visibility into snapshots, replication, data placement, and integration across the rest of the enterprise. With our VM analytics, we also provide visibility up the stack to show customers where the busiest elements within their VMware architecture are taking most of the system resources in any given environment, and then providing insight and guidance on how best to allocate those systems workloads across the rest of the storage infrastructure to deliver a consistent and smooth, expedited, and automated troubleshooting experience so that the system performs at its peak. And lastly, we can provide this information at your fingertips via our Pure One mobile application. So you can actually perform maintenance and support operations from your smartphone, from your tablet, or from your laptop. And all of this is included as just a normal part of our support experience. So no additional cost, no additional effort, simplicity delivered. And of course, scalability. As we have all observed and has been widely reported in the press, data is growing exponentially every 3 years. The amount of data created today has simply outstripped most infrastructure's ability to support it. And then, of course, workloads have dramatically shifted online with the advent of digital transformation services accelerated by things like the COVID-19 pandemic. Government agencies have experienced almost overnight a shift from 90% of their workforce operating in their offices and 10% working remotely to 90% of their personnel working remotely and 10% working in their offices. So the ability to rapidly scale the capability of the infrastructure is directly tied to the efficiency and effectiveness of the organization. So with pure scalability, we provide capability for data services from small on-premises deployments to web-scale cloud platforms. We offer not only individual storage and data service platforms, but integrated systems through our FlashStack converged infrastructure system jointly delivered with Cisco to simplify your agency's operations, reduce management complexity, and deliver infrastructure as a service through our Pure as a Service business model. We eliminate silos, allowing your organization to consolidate infrastructure into more robust, smaller footprint components, driving down the cost of operations and providing a truly stateless service capability that easily facilitates upgrade and scaling over time. This allows you to consolidate your infrastructure to save money by driving efficiencies throughout the stack. We enable you to scale with agility, so you can dial up or down the scale and capacity of your services and paying only what's needed. And finally, delivering transformative value for IT modernization and infrastructure transformation by delivering tier 1 performance and availability at cloud pricing, while also offering the comfort and knowledge of having control over that infrastructure under your agency's mandates. So what this enables is your organization to bridge the cloud gap. We facilitate scaling beyond on-premises by virtue of our integrated data services that provide data connectivity between the on-prem infrastructure and managed service or cloud service provider infrastructure. Cloud and on-premises IT have a huge gap to bridge, and data management and data service is essential to a great cloud integration strategy. Our platforms help make this possible by delivering high reliability and efficiency, hybrid mobility and protection, and consistent APIs and automation to support the latest technologies in enterprise infrastructure administration and management. So we do this through a number of different mechanisms. We're able to connect on-premises infrastructure to hosted and cloud-based infrastructure by virtue of our Pure One Cloud data management and our Purity storage software. And as you can see in this diagram, we're showing traditional on-premises infrastructure on the left, connected to hosted infrastructure in a managed support facility or managed service facility, or a colo, and then of course, ultimately to utility cloud consumption models and platforms in Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure. And all of this is enabled through our Purity software, which is all included in the systems that we deliver today. So no additional licensing to consume, no additional components to purchase. Simply deploy and employ as suits your enterprise purposes, and scale those workloads and migrate that data seamlessly across the cloud back to on-prem or across multiple cloud service providers. This kind of flexibility has proven to be one of the fundamental features most in demand by our government agency customers. The ability to have effectively an on-premises cloud data gateway that enables seamless and near instantaneous movement of workloads across clouds, as well as repatriation of critical workloads, and delivering innate disaster recovery and continuity of operations capabilities to ensure that agency mandates for DR and COOP are inherently met. Of course, the fourth S is sustainment. And Pure Sustainment model, our evergreen support model, is unique in the industry. It is designed to increase efficiency, drive down cost, and reduce impact, effectively canceling your technical debt. And as you can see from this diagram, our fair, flat, and forever evergreen gold subscription model versus traditional legacy storage models significantly drives down overall cost of ownership and total expenses, including storage capacity increases and operating costs. Essentially, you pay very much the same price as traditional year one purchases, but the sustainment cost over time stays flat. And in every 3-year period, you receive an included non-disruptive controller upgrade with the Evergreen subscription renewal, effectively taking you from this generation's technology to the next generation's technology, always maintaining currency with our latest release systems, thereby guaranteeing that your systems are future-proof and canceling your technical debt. It's a business model that is ideally tailored to supporting government sustainment operations. And lastly, we can deliver all of this with the industry's first as-a-service sustainment model. Pure Sustainment focuses on keeping the systems operating, upgraded, efficient, and affordable for as long as you own them. It is as a service at your service, a true utility storage service with enterprise features. We can provide block, file, and object storage services on your premises in Amazon Web Services or in Azure, or as a hybrid cloud and a unified subscription for hybrid clouds. Everything that Pure Storage offers, from FlashStack to AIRI to our FlashArray and FlashBlade systems, and our Portworx Kubernetes data management infrastructure, can all be delivered with the same economic model as traditional subscription cloud-based as-a-service consumption methods, but also provides you with total control of the environment, the predictable funding and financing, and very easy consumption through pre-existing contracts. So enjoy the benefits and performance of on-premises infrastructure, the connectivity from on-premises to public cloud, and the economics of paying as you go and pay as you grow. And finally, we should talk about speed. Pure Storage is without a doubt one of the industry leaders in high-performance all-flash systems. We provide tremendously low latency and tremendously high throughput to provide you the serviceability and agility for hosting multiple workloads in the same systems. And not just one or two workloads or one or two application types, but every one of them. Everything from SAP HANA, Epic Healthcare, patient records, MongoDB, MariaDB, Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, Cassandra. We design systems to deliver the maximum performance for the large enterprise infrastructure platforms, enterprise resource planning systems, and of course, infrastructure operations. And we deliver this with our FlashArray and FlashBlade systems to provide your agency with consolidated block, file, and object storage. In the case of our FlashArray systems, they are powered by, of course, high-performance direct flash modules connected together through our direct flash fabric, and can even be accelerated via our direct memory modules, which provide Optane read caches for your high-performance, high-demand applications, the effect of which is to deliver 100 to 350 microseconds of latency, which is sufficient to provide the best performance for the most demanding enterprise resource planning platforms. And in the case of FlashBlade, we've designed a unified, fast file and object storage platform capable of providing the throughput and parallelism to drive modern analytics and artificial intelligence workflows, support 5G and Internet of Things workloads, and of course, the ability to do tremendously rapid restore of backup and protected data, so that in the event that you have to get back large quantities of data to bring your agency back into operations, we can shorten that restore time down to hours, not days, weeks, or months. This ensures that in the event that there is a ransomware issue or a big corruption of data in the enterprise, that your operational data can be restored and your agency can get back into operation as quickly as possible. The FlashBlade is a scale-out system that delivers tremendous performance, but linear scalability. Through our 17 terabyte and 52 terabyte blade modules, we deliver up to 24 million NFS IOPS in a single system and 15 gigabytes per second of bandwidth per chassis. All of this is delivered in a 4U chassis basis. So again, keeping with our efficiency, we deliver tremendous capability in really small packages. It's tremendously easy to manage and completely, of course, integrated with our Pure One cloud-based storage management platform. We're very pleased to have a number of customers in state, local, higher education, and federal government levels who've adopted Pure Storage as the cornerstone of their infrastructure. I want to particularly recognize the Colorado Department of Education, who had some significant challenges around complex infrastructure, inefficient utilization of their IT resources, and escalating sustainment costs that were putting significant pressure on their budget. By transitioning and adopting Pure Storage as the cornerstone of their data service infrastructure, they were able to consolidate 5 platforms into one. They reduced their data center floor space. They have all of this managed by a single infrastructure team, and they've experienced the benefit of set it and forget it IT operations. The use case in this was consolidation and modernization of their VMware, vSphere, and Horizon Virtual Desktop environments. And they continue to realize tremendous savings 3 years after they've made their purchase. So what Pure Storage fundamentally delivers is a modern data experience for public sector. Every use case at every scale, across every type of application workload and every type of data type. It is a complete platform. It's all flash plus cloud for every workload, seamlessly integrated through Pure One and sustained at a flat fixed cost, canceling your technical debt through our evergreen sustainment model, and easily consumed as a subscription service through our Pure as a Service model. If you'd like to dive deeper, we would encourage you to check out this podcast, The 5 Priorities of Public Sector IT Transformation. A couple of case studies for your consideration. The Colorado Department of Education we referenced, but we'd also like to encourage you to review what your peers and colleagues at the Mississippi Department of Revenue have also experienced over the years now that they have adopted the FlashStack converged infrastructure platform. And finally, we'd like to direct you to some significant studies and observations on efficient, high-performing storage as a service for government and education. Thank you very much for your time and attention today, and we hope that you gathered some good information to help you address some of your enterprise transformation challenges. Thank you again for attending our presentation today, and we certainly hope that you enjoyed it. Visit us at www.purestorage.com for more information. And once again, thanks.
All right, excellent presentation. Thank you so much, Nick. Really appreciate that. I've just brought up the poll question for everyone out there that says, what additional information would you like about Pure Storage? And we appreciate your participation there in that poll. We got a lot of great questions coming in for the Pure Storage team, and I'm routing those over electronically to Nick to respond to those. We've run out of time for live Q&A with Pure Storage, I'm afraid. But we need to keep the EcoCast moving fast-paced. We want to help you to learn about as many solutions as possible. So we'll be answering those questions electronically. Thank you for those, of course, and thank you to everyone who responds there to the poll. I'll just leave that up while I announce our next Amazon $500 gift card winner on the event today. This gift card is going out to Shannon Ryan from Illinois. Congratulations. Shannon Ryan from Illinois. Our previous winner was Alex Pham from Minnesota, and we have another gift card still to give out at the end of the event today. So make sure that you stay tuned for that. And of course, don't forget about our best question prizes as well. All right, I'll let everyone respond here to the poll question. Give you a few more moments to respond to that, and then we'll move on to our next presenter. All right, thank you to everyone who responded to the poll. We appreciate that. It's now time to move on to our next presenter on today's EcoCast. I'm excited now to welcome Mr. Jason Teplitz, Public Sector Systems Engineering Manager at CrowdStrike. Jason, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm really excited to be here today. Good afternoon to you. And hello?
We're excited to have you, Jason. Yeah, take it away.
Thank you so much. Again, my name is Jason Teplitz. I'm a Senior Sales Engineering Leader here at CrowdStrike in the Western United States. My team of 7 engineers handles the largest state and local government as well as healthcare customers in the region, all very experienced practitioners and experts in cybersecurity. I really focus on the partnerships between myself and the organizations that my team deals with. I love to help people. It's part of my core, and so does my team. So I look forward to partnering with as many of the organizations on the call today as I can. And please feel free to drop any questions in the chat for me as I go through my information. So I wanted to focus just a little bit on numbers. So we are, CrowdStrike, it was born as an incident response and intelligence organization. And really our goal was to be able to conduct incident response without dropping hardware or humans on site. We wanted to very quickly be able to grab, what is going on, visibility into our customers' networks through our very lightweight sensor, and enrich that data with intelligence and be able to, stop the breach. We've definitely transformed quite a bit in the last several years into much more than that, with fully managed offerings all the way from deployment through remediation of your endpoints using our exclusive tool set. So terrific. I'm going to talk a little bit about the platform. I just wanted to see, give you a little bit of exposure to who's using us. So about 64% of U.S. states, about 56% of higher education. I personally have been part of some of the largest incident response at the state level, working at CrowdStrike. I've definitely seen, amazing things our product can do for all of these organizations, and I've definitely been involved in a lot of these organizations directly. So I also work directly with the Center for Internet Security on our election security initiatives, as well as very closely with our healthcare partners trying to build healthcare relevant to CrowdStrike. So I'm very proud of these numbers. I was one of the founding members of the team here for state and local government, so we certainly have grown a lot. I believe we now have 15 fully managed states with, tens of thousands of endpoints being managed and remediated through our Falcon Complete offering. So a large state and local government offering. Here, I'll move on to the next slide here. You'll see a little bit about our education offerings. So again, 48% of U.S. states are using CrowdStrike in their education. That's higher education as well as K through 12, et cetera. I certainly hate to see it, but I definitely see education organizations being targeted by ransomware adversaries, and I certainly love to be able to help when it happens, and I hope we can stop those breaches before we start with as many customers as we can. So just a little bit of information here on our state and local government. Our educational customers and where we are. Okay. Now I'm going to give a very brief description of the Falcon platform. These are all of our pillars that you see from endpoint security all the way through the CrowdStrike store. Endpoint security at CrowdStrike either means that EDR, that full visibility into process execution telemetry on the endpoint, so that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we can be looking at your telemetry and deciding, do you have a breach in progress kind of thing through our Overwatch team. So the EDR tool from the endpoint security stack drives that. Of course, on top of that, we can add next generation AV and machine learning technology for prevention of behavioral as well as malicious executions. On top of that, of course, we have those features that our customers demand on the endpoint security, like firewall management and device control. And those are global policies. So if you're looking to implement global policy across all of the different domains that you might cover, we have terrific mechanisms for MSSP to do policy inheritance, as well as really enable you to drive large-scale deployments. Cloud security, of course, we want to help you manage and monitor and your cloud offerings. That means, security for containers and hosts in the cloud, Linux hosts. That often translates to very much with, and certainly we have some, terrific support for Kubernetes and other really advanced technologies in cloud security. On top of that, we want to monitor through our cloud security posture management toolset everything that happens in your cloud. So meaning that if somebody spawns a new host or opens up a host to RDP or brings a new Amazon S3 bucket online, makes a change in Azure or GCP that is important, we're going to tell you about it if it's security critical. We're also able to stream all those changes to your SIM, so you have a really high fidelity view into what's happening in your cloud. Of course, we can do cloud discovery over API without having any sensors deployed in those clouds. So there's a lot of functionality you can get just natively via the APIs in our cloud. Managed services, that's that threat hunting I just talked about. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, if you're a CrowdStrike customer, your process execution and behavioral data is either prevented automatically or detected automatically, or that data is sent for, if we see a low fidelity detection, to our Overwatch team, our threat hunting team, where they investigate your telemetry 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and escalate detections to you. When that Overwatch threat hunting team contacts you, it's a big deal. So we are really proud of that. I'm told all the time it helps people sleep at night. Turnkey security, that's all complete offering I just talked about. So if you're having trouble keeping a staff, if you don't have the expertise to do remediations at scale, that the CrowdStrike team is some of the best engineers in the world, totally dedicated, constantly fighting that fight, so your teams don't have to learn how to do it. So we have some of the, again, we have a huge rate of very low rate of turnover in these organizations, because these engineers are they very much like the action they see, and they very much understand they couldn't get that type of work in many other places. So they're very well equipped to do this job, and I'm very proud of our Falcon Complete organization for that reason. Since our sensor is, again, collecting data once, and we can use it many different ways, and that's where we get into security and IT operations. IT hygiene gives you a feature set through our Discover tool set that allows you to understand many of the CIS top 20 very quickly through clicks, but also we also have vulnerability management tool sets through our Spotlight feature set that allow you almost in near real time, without scanning, to understand where exploits lie on your endpoints, as well as give you prioritization based on what we're seeing exploited throughout our customer base. So our vulnerability management isn't just it's almost a real-time tool, since we're doing process execution ingestion all the time. And again, if you update a Chrome or some other tool set, it's going to reflect, and you're going to have that information in near real time, and just a fantastic tool set for vulnerability management. It's been highly upgraded this year, so if you've looked at it in the past, we've added over 100 new applications to be supported to that tool set. So I highly recommend you checking it out if you haven't. Forensics, of course, we want to help you boil the ocean down. If you have a security event where you have several servers or several hosts involved, not all of those might need a forensic tool set run on them, EnCase, etc. We want to help you collect artifacts related to breach from those endpoints very quickly, so you can boil that ocean down and understand very quickly which endpoints actually need further investigation. Of course, our threat intelligence feature set was one of the founding features of CrowdStrike. Currently, we have 40 million plus indicators of compromise curated. We have multiple feeds, experimental feeds that you can actually use in production that are less experimental, you might say. So those 40 million IOCs can also be integrated with through the CrowdStrike store with several of our partners, whether you're using Mimecast or Proofpoint or ExtraHop. All of these organizations can ingest our 40 million IOCs and add context to what they're doing. So a terrific threat intelligence feature set. We also have extremely advanced malware search and analysis feature sets for your malware reversers, if that's something you do. Identity protection is, identity threat detection is what I'm going to talk about quite a bit today through Zero Trust, because so many of the breaches that we see of late involve credential theft and brute force password attacks and attacks against, using golden tickets or golden SAML tickets. So if you don't have a grasp of what your authentication and Active Directory or Azure is doing in real time, this will give you insight into how to get that visibility and how to protect yourself against those advanced threats. Lastly, we get into Humio's log management tool. Everybody's trying to reduce their SIM bills. A whole new generation of tool sets is now available for indexless, high compression log management, really customized to your organization. If you're struggling with your SIM bills by pushing all of your data from your routers, switches, firewalls into an expensive tool set, Humio might be a great option for you. Again, this is indexless technology. As soon as the data hits Humio, it's available for alerting. Any data can be sent. It's really amazing. I highly recommend it if you're in that log management evaluation place in your organization. Lastly, the CrowdStrike store. This is where all the partnerships we have with those organizations, like I just talked about, every organizations that, for SIM organizations like IBM QRadar, organizations that do SOAR, other types of XDR. So a terrific set of partners that make their functionality available sometimes in a single click. So again, one lightweight agent, any of these, again, that does not require a reboot. We're going to talk a little bit further about the performance facts in a second. Again, all of it can be enabled after the fact. You don't have to start with any of this just turned on. All of it can be purchased pretty much a la carte, or it can be added later. So if you have any questions about how any of our platform works, please feel free to drop a question in the chat for me. So next, I'm going to give you some Falcon sensor performance facts. So this is just, it's really important to understand the CrowdStrike Falcon sensor, because it's such a key piece of our offering. And I really like to give some technical information when I get a chance, because it really helps people understand why we are so state-of-the-art and easy to deploy. So we're a highly compatible sensor architecture made to deploy in emergency, meaning that those incident response, we can't add friction to the IT organizations that are doing incident response with us. We have to be able to drop our sensor on 100,000 machines with very, low to no false positives, with no behaviors stopping critical business from happening. And I'm really proud to say our sensor is that. It is no reboots ever. You're never going to get a special build from CrowdStrike. It's a fantastic state-of-the-art sensor. Most of our EDR telemetry is the result of kernel callbacks, so extremely lightweight transactions where we're just asking the kernel for telemetry. We're not doing memory scrapings. We have 2 processes and 3 drivers. If you look at that compared to a lot of your legacy AV solutions, we see some of those having 10 plus different executables and drivers running, so extremely lightweight. Our product installs small and stays small. We're never going to be more than 50 megs or so on the disk. We don't have a huge signature database. We use machine learning, and we do a great job of cleaning up after ourselves. So we've got a lot of work is gone into keeping the sensors install small, stays small. The sensor pushes about 5 to 7 megs of EDR traffic upstream to our graph database with ingestion of execution data in about 1 minute. So, from the time you press that link to when you log into our dashboard, most likely that process execution event is going to be there. Sensor events stream from volatile memory to the cloud. So this is really important. This means that in your virtualized architecture, we're not going to drop that data to disk and then send it to our cloud. We're going to just stream it directly from memory to the cloud. Again, this translates to very low IOPS on virtual infrastructure, and again, very different from the products of old that were very disk write heavy. I already mentioned reboots not required for VDI or other platforms pretty much ever. No special builds ever. Our product is very, made to be compatible, so we expect you to have few to no exclusions and whitelisting. Of course, we do soak tests when we deploy our sensor, and we look for behaviors or executables that are maybe built in-house to trip ML. Sometimes we don't see any. I've deployed our sensor to tens of thousands of hosts in a single day with no detections and no whitelisting required. So, just easy to deploy. I can't emphasize that much more. Machine learning engine does not require daily updates. So we do update the 6 million plus attributes that make up our machine learning engine. It happens about every 90 days, and it's very transparent as part of the versions we deploy. We support a sensor 180 days, so there's no reason to jump from version to version, but if there's a bug or some other security component that we've added to deal with some new threat, it's really great to keep your sensors up to date. And by the way, it's very easy to keep your sensors up to date with CrowdStrike because we are fully automated in our updating. So, we have policies that allow for N-1, N-2, and we have policies that allow your security teams to QA the actual sensor build before you take them into production. So, a very robust tool set for, keeping your sensors up to date. And one great thing, one console to manage it all. Configure, hunt, remediate everything. So if you're in a place where you're digging through a bunch of dashboards to do your endpoint security configuration for USB device control, firewall, then the security components itself, remember, CrowdStrike's going to give you one dashboard. We don't even hook into LDAP directly. We literally grab that information for domain via our telemetry and kernel lookups. So it's extremely lightweight. And again, if you're struggling management, I highly recommend CrowdStrike, of course, because again, that one console to manage it all. And this presentation was originally made for a Citrix offering that I did. We're highly deployable basically through any mechanism that you might have available to you, from Intune to Citrix app layering to SCCM to group policy. The product is super easy to deploy, and we pretty much deployed it with about everything out there. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of focus on our zero trust ecosystem today, and I really wanted folks to understand, in CrowdStrike's opinion, not my opinion, this is what good security looks like today, covering all endpoints, cloud, and identity attacks. So you'll see that in the center is the CrowdStrike cloud, the CrowdStrike threat graph that intel and threat hunting are done with. But you understand we also have lines to our tech partners as well as our zero trust partners that allow for, again, that us to extend MFA to any application. We also see Falcon. Of course, we can deploy across any endpoint, but in our opinion, it is critical to have not just an endpoint approach, but a real-time zero trust approach with real-time Active Directory monitoring happening for those advanced threats against identity. I'm going to move on to the next slide now. So basically, this is the gist of how the product works. The sensor agent, basically there are two elements to any request: the requester, which is the employee, the privileged user, a contractor, and the data to be accessed. This data could be in a public cloud or a SaaS, a private cloud, on premises. And our approach with systems or our in the corporate data center is to, again, monitor in real time using the threat graph, a risk engine, and other tool sets that allow us to, again, help you make decisions in real time against threats against your organization. The risk engine gives you the ability to analyze lots of data based on context and machine learning systems. The policy engine is the ability to determine appropriate action to take in real time with specific conditions occur. So a big portion of what I'm going to show you today is a tool set called conditional access. We're going to dig into that in a little while, but it's a really terrific tool set to, again, use Zero Trust to do virtual segmentation based on identity. So we're going to get into that a little bit now. Okay, so this is the reference architecture. As you can see, the CrowdStrike Cloud is in the center. We have APIs that allow all of our detections to come to you into your SIEM via streaming, email, etc. We have a sensor that goes on your domain controller. On your workstations, if the Falcon sensor is installed, we can actually generate a UI for the MFA that we're going to force. If it's not installed, the MFA would just appear on people's phones. So I just wanted to make sure everybody understands you don't necessarily have to have the Falcon sensor to use CrowdStrike's identity protection. There are some caveats to that, but I'm happy to talk about that later. And lastly, the API gateways allow us to talk to MFA providers, IDaaS, and federation services. So a pretty easy architecture. Basically, we start out by deploying our Zero Trust identity protection sensor directly on that domain controller that begins to do AD scraping to get us the information we need. Just to understand, we're very close to deploying that same domain controller sensor as the Falcon sensor itself. So very soon, there won't be a separate domain controller sensor. It'll all be tied into the same sensor that I just talked about a little bit earlier. Technical use cases. These are some great technical use cases for CrowdStrike Zero Trust. Reduce audit and security risk through visibility and auto-classification of all identities everywhere. If you don't know where your service users are being used, if your service users are being used for RDP logins, this is going to give you that visibility you probably don't have now. Identity store attack and path visibility. So like I mentioned earlier, we could do golden ticket and golden SAML detection. These are key elements. Again, if you do have a user that has been phished and pwned, once they have those tickets, it's pretty much game over unless you have a mechanism that can actually see the tickets being used, and that's what CrowdStrike can provide. Lastly, creating segments based on identity versus network applications. So again, based on conditional access, we can say a specific user, a user group, a user group type, all of these can, with very sophisticated conditional access rules that say, okay, this user's only allowed to, again, authenticate 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. They can never use RDP. A terrific conditional access feature set that allows you to very quickly deploy a policy that matches your needs. Detection and prevention, threat detection and response for identity-specific threats in hybrid SSO and in all users everywhere. So if they're in Azure, if they're local to your data center, we're going to have that visibility. Dynamic policy adaptation to the attack path, meaning that every time a new server that authenticates against Active Directory comes online, we're going to automatically apply this conditional access to it. It's totally transparent if authentication based on AD is being used and our tool set's deployed. So identity store defense, we're definitely very much want to give you visibility into the attacks that are happening against your identity stores. So again, we want to, in the end, also enable you to verify with MFA challenge for increased risk or anomalies. So any application that you want that uses Active Directory to authenticate, whether that's an internet-facing Outlook web access server that's never had MFA before, or an internet-facing RDP farm, you can transparently add conditions that will require an MFA challenge to those resources as soon as they come online. So we're also going to be doing continuous risk-based score of users, and it's just a very user. If you're using a UEBA tool set now and you don't have the the visibility that you like from it, again, this is a possible tool set that you might adopt in lieu of UEBA. MFA protection for legacy apps and tools. I know I've said that a couple times, but again, whether it's drive share or an internet-facing resource, or you want to add MFA to your to a SaaS app, this tool set can transparently do that for you. Next slide here. So Zero Trust identity attack detection and prevention. So what we do, we detect identity-based attacks such as turbo roasting, real-time views into attack paths and identity hygiene. We prevent use and misuse of compromised credentials. The screenshot's a little bit of an eye chart, but I just wanted to give you all a view of our UI and basically some ideas of our 80 attack protections here. So here we get into zero trust detection and behavioral. So this is, again, another mechanism where, we're looking for user-based anomalies. I just, again, wanted to give you all some ideas of the user threats that we're looking for. And, again, anomalous access, things like this, again, are very hard to monitor, and having a tool set that can do this in real time has been a great thing for many of our customers. And again, if you're blind to this type of tool set now, certainly this is easy to implement and will give you the visibility you need. Okay, so this is a kind of an idea of a conditional access rule. So I'm gonna have to look at my screen a little bit thicker here. So as you can see at the top of the option there, we have an option to block. That can also be verified. Then we get into the conditions, like are they trying to access RDP? Are they in a specific user group? And then we can do things like force people to use a jump host to RDP into a specific segment through these conditional access rules. So very powerful. Again, we can do time and date-based access. Again, and all of this happens and is adjusted in near real time. Here we get into a little bit of a demo regarding the use of the Zero Trust. I wanted everybody to see how it looks in action. And this is a login to a Citrix session that will generate an MFA for the end user automatically based on Zero Trust integration. So I'm going to let this video play. Actually, there was the end user that recorded the video wasn't me. He had a little bit of a problem with the video, so we actually have a slight delay here. But this was an in-house Citrix farm that was built to deploy our tool set and show customers what it looks like to deploy Zero Trust with an RDP or a Citrix farm. In just a second, we'll start to see the user log back into the session, as well as then, again, get the MFA challenge that I talked about earlier. So this is the login. You should see a username and password happen just very shortly. Just a little bit of a delay here. Okay, here we see the user logging in. And we see the MFA challenge. We see the iPhone Duo request on the right-hand side. So again, this is all transparent. If the user groups have their conditional access rules for access into whether it's RDP or Citrix, you're going to be able to generate that MFA, or you'll be able to do that for any legacy network resource that you have utilized. In the end here, you're going to see Stefan, the person that filmed the video, log into his dashboard, and the next demo here. So the next demo here is us accessing a drive share. So we're going to show you that we're logged on with administrator credentials, and we're going to generate an MFA based on trying to access a drive share as an administrator. So here we see they are a domain admin. Now my video is they're going to switch over and click the link here for a connected drive share. You'll see Explorer load, and then immediately you'll have an MFA challenge. So again, if you're looking to segment data in your network based on user identity, making it so admins might not be able to access network drives, but specific users could, this could very quickly show that type of example. Now we're just doing a little bit more of the rule sets here, where we show a little bit of our time-based access into an application. And, that really, kind of ends the demo. And I think I would like to take the Q&A now. Is that possible?
Absolutely. Yeah. Great presentation. Really cool demo there. Thank you for sharing that with us, Jason. We do have some questions for you from the audience. While we do that, I'm just going to bring up this poll for everyone out there that says, what additional information would you like about CrowdStrike? And we appreciate everyone's response to that. So let's see, a lot of good questions have been coming in. One of the questions I asked here was, what sort of integrations are available between CrowdStrike and other malware detection products that might be on the endpoints, for example?
Ooh, that's a great question. On the endpoints themselves, well, we can certainly live alongside other endpoint security products. I mean, there are some caveats, and occasionally we do need to whitelist if something's accessing a specific file or other. But as for direct integrations with other vendors directly on the endpoint, other malware vendors, I don't believe we have any. We do have integrations with partners that do patching and application whitelisting, where we actually fully deploy their agent and manage their agent for them, such as Airlock. But unfortunately, there's no other direct integration with another endpoint security vendor on the endpoint. I hope that answers your question on it. Just being honest.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. And then next question here from Charlie. He says that their current endpoint security software is extremely CPU and disk intensive on their endpoints, and it causes a lot of problems. What sort of resource consumption does CrowdStrike, have?
Sure.
He wants to make sure it doesn't interfere with the productivity of end users.
Sure, no problem. We run about 1% CPU across all applications. So should be very, very low resource consumption across compared to a legacy solution. Again, this has to do with just the sheer fact that we have, a high stack elevation, and we're in the kernel. In that way, we're more like a VPN client than we are like a legacy AV application. VPN happens in the kernel, and it does that to be extremely lightweight and performance, high performance. Same thing as us. We are have our sensor running in the kernel so we can be extremely high performance. And again, resource consumption, again, we expect you to be around 1% CPU. I think that currently we advertise as high as 3% CPU. I have customers that run our product with one virtual CPU and, again, minimal amounts of RAM, 2 to 4 gigs of RAM. Rarely do I hear an issue related to performance regarding our product, so I'm pretty proud of that. And we have mechanisms that can basically turn off EDR on any execution path. So if you do have some performance-centric tool set that you absolutely want to make sure that we're not interrupting, it's very easy to add an exclusion for a path that'll just basically turn off EDR visibility. And with great power comes great responsibility, because you will add a security gap right there. But again, if you have some application of concern, we certainly have the ability to give you tool sets to add performance back.
Very nice. And then there's another question here. They're wanting to know if there's a version of CrowdStrike that could be used as a free trial or something like that for a kind of proof of concept.
Sure. We have if you wanted to go to CrowdStrike try and buy directly into your browser, you'll come. We will offer a solution for our prevention feature set. If you wanted to fully evaluate our EDR feature, so that again, that try and buy will give you full visibility, full access to all of our machine learning, behavioral security. You'll be able to do any type of red team testing or other with that free trial. But if you want to really understand the visibility and the advanced features, if you're doing threat hunting in-house and you want to be able to search for behaviors such as who's loading files from the Outlook cache or running, files from the recycling bin, that's what I'd require our full EDR solution. That would require you to talk to your CrowdStrike rep. We're happy to help. We're happy to set up POVs. We do it all the time, and we have a very robust process to help you test our product. So I hope you give it a try.
Awesome. All right. Well, Jason, it's been great having you on the event today. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody.
And for more information on CrowdStrike, fill out the poll question right there. We appreciate your feedback on that. Also, check out in the Handouts tab, there is a CrowdStrike resource right there that you can download for additional information. All right. Thank you to everyone there who responded to the poll. We do want your feedback. But we're also going to keep the EcoCast moving here because it's now time for our next presentation. But before we do that, I've got a poll question for you out there in the audience. How confident are you with performing threat hunting? Very comfortable, somewhat comfortable, or not really comfortable at all? So I'll leave this up for a moment, let everyone respond to this. We do appreciate your feedback. All right, thank you for all the responses to that poll. We do appreciate it. It's now my pleasure to introduce you to our next presenter on the EcoCast. I'm excited now to bring in Jeremy Kopaco, Senior Solutions Engineer at Sophos. Jeremy, take it away.
Hi there, thanks for joining me. My name is Jeremy Kopaco, and I'm a Senior Sales Engineer for Sophos. Today, we're going to discuss the impact of cybersecurity events affecting education institutes and how Sophos is working to solve those challenges. Let's quickly review our agenda for today. We will discuss the landscape for education that impacted so many in 2020 and now 2021. Then we will discuss the security challenges affecting the industry, including survey and incident reporting data. We will end the discussion on the MTR team and how they're positioned to help you thrive. Let's begin. So what happened last year? Education technology leaders and decision makers typically have this vision in their head of how their network should be set up, leveraging a hybrid model of securing devices behind the firewall while using cloud service models where it makes sense, such as Office 365 or Google Workspace. But then the pandemic started and schools were shut down. This took months of planning that leaders put into effect and quickly erased them. Technology leaders are known for their resiliency and their ability to make organizations successful with fewer resources. But this would also prove to be their greatest feat yet. And in an instant, it all changed. The students and staff were forced to pivot and adapt. Staff relied on VPN tunnels to access internal services, such as business applications or student information systems, while also being asked to learn how to create their lessons plans through a communication platform like Zoom or Hangouts. Students received devices as quickly as they could be prepped and distributed to attend virtual classrooms. They used this device for virtual assignments, but quickly, administrators learned that it became a personal device for them for use for any and everything. This created a great strain on so many networks that were not prepared or secured for such a transition. This is something we have seen happening across the entire technology industry. According to the Sophos State of Ransomware 2021 survey, we found that only 7% of organizations were using a remote work setup for their organization prior to the pandemic. This percentage greatly increased where we found that nearly 80% of organizations have shifted their workforce to a remote model to continue operations. So let's examine two major changing points for what the educational technology sector was asked to accommodate. The first was during the shutdowns, which we just discussed the hurdles here. In fact, many schools were sending physical copies of assignments to students to accommodate needs where rural internet access was not strong enough, or if the district could not allocate a device to the student. And then summer came. There was so much uncertainty as to what the future would hold for schools and their learning plans. To accommodate this, they were tasked with several tedious activities that typically require proper planning and thorough testing. With the heightened reliance on supporting the school activities from their home, decision makers had to implement new technologies to manage, secure, and support the new devices in virtual classrooms. This sometimes forced systems administrators to rush setup and not take full advantage of the services. They were also tasked with deploying massive number of devices, such as laptops, Chromebooks, and tablets, to ensure every student and staff member had a device to perform their duties. And of course, in addition to this, the normal summer refresh workload was still their responsibility. Any projects around upgrading the infrastructure or replacing aging devices still had to fit into this new workload. The first major challenge that every organization faced dealt with how to manage their assets that were no longer behind a traditional firewall to check in with their local servers. Many schools were not in a position to deploy updates to secure vulnerabilities. The second dealt with supporting the workforce in general. Often, it's easy to quite literally walk down to a classroom and work with the user to see what the issue is, or simply swap it with a replacement to make troubleshooting shorter and prevent disruptions in the learning process. Time had to be made to get the user on the phone to understand what the issue and identify it remotely. The third fell into supporting the new services or platforms that the school had recently implemented. Training often will give you a conceptual understanding of how the product interacts, but truly administering it within your environment will present unexpected challenges. The technology team was forced to learn on the fly, and this sometimes led to misconfigurations or mistakes. Finally, of course, the normal tasks that the technology department is responsible for still had to be performed. Easy, right? I want to share more details from our survey on the state of ransomware 2021 that are particularly fascinating. 44% of education respondents said that they were hit by ransomware within the last year. Of those respondents, 30% expected to be hit again. Overall, 51% of all of our respondents said that if they were to be hit by an attack, that they had a detailed business continuity plan or disaster recovery plan in effect for their incident response posture. 81% of all respondents across all industries said that their ability to find and retain security professionals presented a major challenge. 21% of all respondents across all verticals said that finding security professionals are their single biggest challenge. The average ransomware paid by a mid-sized organization was $170,000 on average, but in total, the average bill for rectifying a ransomware attack, when factoring in downtime, people, device costs, network costs, lost opportunity, ransomware, and more, was well over $1.85 million on average. So if you are in the education field, and I hope that you are by watching this, a new report was created this year to help map and identify the various types of cybersecurity incidents. You can see by this chart that the attacks are frequent and appear in different positions across the US. It is always important to know that this map is collecting data on incidents that are reported. It does not consider incidents happening in locations that may have shared the event publicly. When you look at the breakdown of the incidents for this report, we find a lot of fascinating results beyond just what we have seen in our own state of ransomware survey. 45% of organizations state that they are dealing with DDoS attacks, or distributed denial of service attacks, which more and more are being orchestrated by the students using free network stressor services available online. 36% of organizations experienced a data breach or a data leak, while 12% reported ransomware, 5% for malware-related attacks, while only 2% reported a phishing-related incident. As we consider the incidents that the education has faced, let's review a definition of exploits, which are largely how many of the attack surfaces begin. An exploit or exploitation technique is the underlying way in which an attacker can abuse a software or hardware vulnerability to make a computer do something it shouldn't. So to put this into context on how much vulnerabilities an organization may have to deal with each year, we want to review the chart provided by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or commonly referred to as NIST. This is the 10-year rising trend in vulnerabilities reported each year. This report was taken on May 10th. And as you can see, for the first time since 2016, we are not on pace to outdo our previous year of vulnerabilities. NIST also compiles a word visualization of each vulnerability in its database. The larger the word, the more prevalent it is in the definition. This image shows a lot of buzzwords and industry terms, but the most important takeaway is that a vulnerability allows remote attackers. You may have seen these names in the news in 2021 as major cybersecurity incidents. SolarWinds had an incident in their Orion platform that greatly affected organizations leveraging it for systems monitoring. The Microsoft Exchange vulnerability that allowed web shells to the server, known as Hafnium, affected so many that Microsoft released both an emergency patch and a tool to identify if you were impacted. And of course, recently, the Colonial Pipeline breach where hackers successfully gained entry into the gas provider's infrastructure and encrypted their files. This forced the organization to shut down operations and paid the ransom in Bitcoin, which is rumored to be around $5 million. In fact, due to the series of ransomware attacks on the Colonial Pipeline most recently, the world's biggest meat processor, JBS, the United States Justice Department penned a letter to top business leaders and corporate executives outlining steps companies should take to protect themselves. Ann Neuberger, the White House's top cybersecurity advisor, said all organizations must recognize that no company is safe from being targeted by ransomware, regardless of size or location. She also said the most important takeaway from cyber attacks by criminal organizations asking for money in return for stolen data and systems is that companies view ransomware as a threat to their core business operations rather than just a simple risk of data theft that will react and recover more effectively. So to do so, companies must create and define their security objectives. Accomplishing this objective requires the combination of three core capabilities: protection, detection, and response. Most organizations are struggling to efficiently support one or more of these capabilities, be it through limited experience or inability to hire qualified talent. As such, many organizations have either partnered with a service provider or considered with one to augment and enhance their internal capabilities. So what options do you have available to you from Sophos? Introducing the Sophos Managed Threat Response Team. You may have heard a different acronym known as MDR, or Managed Detection and Response. Many competing services in the marketplace position their services to alert you of an event and allow you to read how to respond to the incident. Sophos is different. Sophos takes action. Our team of expert threat hunters provides 24/7 threat hunting, detection, and response capabilities delivered as a fully managed service, and they too use InterceptX with EDR in their threat hunting. They proactively hunt for and validate potential threats and incidents, working with the malware experts in Sophos Labs to investigate and analyze suspicious indicators. Unlike other services, our team doesn't just notify you of issues, they also determine and apply the most appropriate actions to neutralize the threat. Building on top of complete transparency into what's in your environment, the service provides weekly and monthly reports delivered to your Sophos Central dashboard. This lets you see what we've stopped on your behalf. So let's start by explaining what the MTR can see when an incident occurs. You'll notice a graphic depicting the incident in this case. The graphic allows the analyst to visualize the attack footsteps while simultaneously providing visibility into the artifacts of the case. An artifact can be a number of important details, including but not limited to the host IP, the operating system details, timestamps, estimated threat impact levels, file path information, process IDs, and so much more. This level of detail allows the analyst to assess each detection with a high rate of accuracy and provide the appropriate action. Next, let's discuss how we can use these artifacts being collected to respond to an incident. Oftentimes, a single detection may not be enough to make the analyst escalate a detection into a true case. Consider a scenario where one of your users recently returned from vacation and forgot their log information. Or perhaps they purchased a new smartphone and have not set up multi-factor authentication. The user attempts to sign in, but eventually locks themselves out. Is this a brute force attempt, or is it simply human error? The analyst will review additional detections related to the user or device to access suspicious activity that could increase the likelihood of an incident. This provides you with a truly accurate investigation and will minimize the chance of a false detection. You'll notice a trend here that I keep saying the word accuracy, and there's an important reason. Many competing services will advertise their SLAs, or service level agreements, where they are quote unquote guaranteeing a response within a specific time period. When attempting to fill the objectives of your security programs, accuracy matters. Correlation is not always causation. If an analyst rushes their interpretation of a detection or an incident, it can disrupt your organization's productivity and lead to financial or business loss. Sophos relies on the following internal MTR targets. The goal is to detect any signal or event within 2 minutes of occurrence, respond and investigate each within 20 minutes, and provide a resolution within 60 minutes. Accuracy matters. To understand how the investigation process goes, the analyst is following a military terminology known as OODA: observe, orient, decide, act. This process can become cyclical and relies on reviewing many of the items you see listed here, including lead-driven and leadless threat hunts, aligning to MITRE TAC technique discovery, or the Lockheed Martin cyber kill chain, and many more. To give more insight to what kind of signals and events an analyst might encounter, we can start to review the different ideas that Sophos has. We can see on the left side of the screen, using the EDR tools within our endpoint agent, the analyst can run queries manually and autonomously within your environment. The queries come from our threat hunting playbook, a proprietary set of discovery techniques built from past incident response engagements and throughout the team's 10+ years of security monitoring services. You can see how the team is able to continually groom and review files such as Windows programs, event logs, services, and more. On the right side of the screen are what we call events. An event is something you should be familiar with now inside of the Sophos Central dashboard. These are beacons discovered from our components running inside of Intercept X, such as potentially unwanted applications, exploit techniques, and more. But you'll also notice we have events driven from our firewall and cloud optics solution. How does this work? The firewall and cloud events are feeding into the MTR team using what we call connectors. Connectors provide another level of telemetry and visibility into your network streams or cloud workloads. Using these connectors, the team can improve the accuracy in which they investigate any detection or case. They can use DNS or web requests being gathered from the firewall, or run packet captures to analyze untrusted traffic. This can be used to identify unmanaged devices or legacy systems hanging out in the environment. The cloud connectors work to identify critical events inside of your AWS, Azure, or Google platform workloads. The MTR team can see anomalous user login activity, suspicious traffic connections, and other high-risk activities. And we understand if you're not ready to give up the keys to the kingdom. We get it. Your network is sacred, and we want to enhance your team. You are able to use the MTR team in one of 3 modes. Notify, which provides alerting and notification of detections to give your team actionable response steps. Collaborate, which allows you to define a list of contacts to engage with during a detection or incident that will work together with you to remediate it. Or authorize, meaning you trust us and give us the keys, we'll let you sleep easy at night and handle the incidents anytime they happen, anywhere, any day of the year. The MTR team has many ways to respond to an active threat. Consider the list shown here. In a moment's notice, the team can provide an instant change to your protection policies to block files, trigger scans, restrict access to IPs or websites, deny applications, or isolate the host entirely. The team also has a live terminal session to your entire fleet of devices. This includes Windows, Mac, and Linux platforms. Before an MTR team member can perform any changes on a host, the MTR team lead on duty must review and approve the action. This ensures these steps are required, appropriate, and necessary. We also understand convincing leadership can be difficult to justify given the cost of an MTR type service. While you understand the ROI or return on investment of preventing an incident will far outweigh the cost of paying a ransom or forking the money to labor your infrastructure back online, business managers will often learn the hard way. That's why Sophos created the Rapid Response Team. Consider it calling 911, only for a cybersecurity incident. Rapid Response Service enables any organization in the midst of attack to benefit from support from our experts. It is a remote incident response service for triaging, containing, and neutralizing active threats. It combines easily deployed cloud-based technology, such as InterceptX Advanced with EDR, with a 24/7 team of dedicated incident response experts. It provides same-day onboarding with a dedicated point of contact to discuss status and next steps. It's provided as a 45-day fixed cost service priced simply based on your total user and server count. Optionally, fixed cost rapid deployment service to accelerate the agent installation can also be applied to make the customer state easier. We will also provide continuous support, even after the threat has been neutralized, up to 45 days using the Sophos Advanced service. Our goal and the customer's goal is the same: to contain and neutralize the active threat. To provide you with a high-level map of how the rapid response engagement works, the kickoff call begins with what your team has experienced and what you know so far while the deployment of our agent begins. The team will then begin to identify and access the incident. Once complete, they actively work to contain and neutralize the threat. You'll then enter to a period where if no new incidents occur, the remainder of your time will be transitioned to our MTR Advanced service. This will continue to monitor the environment 24/7, which allows you to decide if you want to continue with the term of the service. The dedicated team will review with your team a threat summary and a set of recommendations that will improve your organization's security posture. 2021 is already shaping up to be a landmark year for cybersecurity incidents and events. If you have more questions and are interested in how the Sophos MTR team can enhance your organization's security objectives, please reach out to your local Sophos account team. They'll guide you through a personalized session to discuss your unique requirements. Thank you for taking the time to watch and learn about the threat landscape surrounding the education sector. Stay safe and stay secure.
All right, excellent presentation. Thank you so much, Jeremy. I'm afraid we're out of time for live Q&A, but Jeremy is in the questions pane there. He's answering questions actively from the audience, so we encourage your questions. Don't forget about our best question prize we're running as well. I've just brought up the poll question for everyone out there on the screen. I want to call your attention to this. It says, what additional information would you like about Sophos? So if you'd like to get a personal demo or information on pricing or just try it out for yourself, I encourage you to check the appropriate box there or multiple boxes on the poll question on the screen. And I'll leave that up while I announce our final gift card winner. This Amazon $500 gift card is going out to Michael Catalano from New Jersey. Congratulations. Michael Catalano from New Jersey. We've also got our two other gift card winners. I'll post all the prize winner names in the questions pane. And of course, we'll be contacting our 6 best question prize winners after the event today. All right, thank you to everyone who responded there to the poll. Don't forget to watch out for your email with the announcement on the best question prize winners. And before we go, of course, don't forget about our 10 on Tech podcast over in the iTunes store. If you are a potential sponsor of an upcoming MegaCast or EcoCast event, reach out to us at connect@actualtechmedia.com, and we would love to chat about having you on. In fact, speaking of upcoming EcoCasts, we're having another EcoCast event tomorrow on evaluating endpoint protection platforms. On that event, you'll hear more from CrowdStrike, Sophos, and Wind River. We'll have 3 more Amazon $500 gift cards to give away. So we hope to see you tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern Time to learn about evaluating endpoint protection platforms. Thank you so much for joining us on the EcoCast today. I hope that you learned a lot, and I hope that you have a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.